What is going on, YouTube world? I'm a Dave Archer, and then Broncos 79, somewhere over there.
What's going on, guys?
This is the Insert Revolution podcast. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how successful it's going to be, but something I wanted to try. I know Steve's been wanting to try it for a long time too, or at least get in on it. Being that we are two guys that have been mainstays with inserts for a number of years, pretty much since they've been out in the mid 90s, early 90s. That's what we've always gravitated towards, collection wise. And then when we started collecting players, that's where our main focus usually ends up, is the tough to pull inserts. I hope this podcast, this video deal, will be enlightening a lot of people to what the world of inserts is about. It's not just all about basketball. That's some of the best stuff out there right now. You're paying absolutely astronomical amounts for it. But at the same time, there's still a market. Baseball's hot. And then football, hockey. We're going to mainly talk about football, but football and hockey, they're still very affordable for the players you can get. The caliber players that are on the Hall of Famers, the ones you want to look for. But even if you don't have, let's say you're a Miami Dolphins fan and you don't want to pay even for Marianas, which is acceptable. There's other guys out there. There's all these players that are out there that you can collect, you can pick up, and enjoy, and not have to break the bank. NBA stuff right now, you're breaking the bank. Hockey, football, baseball to a degree, you're not breaking the bank. We're going to try to go down the road with you. Maybe show you some things you didn't know. Show you some things you already knew. Who knows? It's going to be an adventure, because that's usually how my videos are. A long-winded adventure. Seeing what Steve's got going on now, trying to do this from the phone, it's super fun. So he's trying to go, I think, on the laptop. And let me see if I have to add him. Nope. But I'm going to get in how I started collecting. Hopefully Steve will come back, and I'll get into that. I might have to remove him and then have him join back in. Okay, here we are. There we go. So I'll go Steve first. How did you start collecting, or when did you start collecting, and then when did you start the deep dive into collecting?
So, hopefully you can hear me, Dave. Sorry I didn't join on my laptop. My phone just wasn't cutting it. Plus, it looked a lot more grainy than what it was. But, so, I got heavy into collecting really around when I was about 5 years old. So, I was born in 79. Ooh, I'm getting feedback. Hold on. Hold on, guys. I don't know if that's me.
Yeah, I can see some like gray lines popping against your screen.
Yeah, I see it too. The joys of certain technology.
Well, I'm Amish, so I mean, if it wasn't a piecemeal technological nightmare, it wouldn't be Amish.
Yeah, but there's a delay even in when you and I are talking.
Okay. Well, I'm Amish, so I mean, if it wasn't a piecemeal technological nightmare, it wouldn't be
Yeah, but there's a delay even in when you and I are talking. So, Dave, I'm going to jump back on my phone because this just
Okay.
ain't working.
Oh, that's all right. I'll go into my how I started collecting, and when I took the deep dive, um, probably '86 was I started collecting. Remember going to the local Mida, picking up packs of what is it, '86 tops, and getting the football. But then back then, because my brother would have been 3, I'd write my name on the back of the cards to let me know they're my cards. See if Steve is back. And you got me.
We're having technical.
Okay. But I started then '86. Bought mostly baseball after that up until about 90, 91. Moved to Superior, Wisconsin, which is a couple hours away from Ely. A couple card shops down there, which up in Ely we didn't have. Virginia, even at the time, didn't have anything that I was aware of. And did a lot more with baseball, and then started doing stuff with football and then hockey. Because hockey at that time was huge, with Pavel Bure coming in. And it's probably about 90 when I started collecting seriously, like taking care of my cards a lot more than like a 6-year-old would take care of them. I wasn't writing my name on the cards. Um, the Frank Thomas score was a big rookie card for me. And then what would have been the Leaf? And that, when you saw it in the back at like $80, $100, you're like, that can't be. Same with the Griffey 89 upper deck, but that'll be for another episode. Um, just constantly buying over the years, never really being out of the hobby, never really saying, "Oh, I'm going to go in this direction," not worry about this, not worry about that. I'm gonna keep buying cards just because there's a lot of people out there that did that, and that nobody's fault. There's no fault there. It's just I stayed the course and always bought, always traded, always sold to a degree. But the inserts when they start popping, 90, 91 elite, 92 the rookie sensations, and then the team pinnacle, or not team pinnacle, and then the rookie idols. Those were the ones that really got me going insert wise. And then upper deck, of course, when you have like the Ted Williams and the Reggie Jackson from say '90, the inserts, the upper deck heroes, plus the autograph chance. Those were the things that really made me sit down and look, ooh, I need these. I want to get in on these. And it was At that point in time, insert the player collecting came a little later. But what about you, Steve? How did you get started? When did you start, and when did you really get serious about collecting?
So hopefully you can actually hear me, and there's no lag and everything else along those lines. You're gonna have to deal with the sporadic.
That's all right.
We only have Wi-Fi at the house, and of course it tells you to do it via wired. But going back to what I was saying originally, so I started when I was about 5 years old. So 84 time frame. I know that's crazy to think. I was born in 79, so I'm 41 years old, and I've been collecting on and off pretty much almost my entire life. It started, for those of you who have watched my channel on YouTube for some time, it all started with my grandmother. My grandmother was a lover of sports. There was always sports going on in the house. Baseball, football, two of her favorite sports. But that's ultimately what kind of got my interest into sports. And then that transitioned into actually collecting cards. I still remember my first, I'll call it grouping of cards. We had a neighbor up the street that collected. And to get me started, they gave me like a crap ton of 85 Topps football. And not in the best condition, but, Walter Payton, Dan Marino, second year, I had a Warren Moon rookie. At that time, when you're that young, you know the names, but you have no idea what you're doing as it pertains to taking care of things. So that's really what started it. And then as I got a little bit older, I found a few local card shops. I didn't really have an allowance. So my grandmother, would take me to the card shop and, buy me a few packs of Topps, because back then they were dirt cheap. And that's also back when it was a hobby. And, then it transitioned to her buying retail. So every time she went to the grocery store, because I lived with my grandmother until I was 13 years old. So every time she went to the grocery store, I always knew that I was going to get some sort of cards. But that's really kind of the back end story of where I officially really started collecting. And I've done it on and off ever since then. From a player collector perspective, it's, you and I have talked about this, and I was really trying to identify really a time frame. 95, 96, right around that time. I was working, I was in high school, and this high drafted kid out of Georgia, drafted by the Denver Broncos, watching that preseason game and him drilling that guy on the freaking kickoff return. I'm like, you know what? I don't know. This kid is something special. And, that's where I really found my interest with Terrell Davis. Because that is my main player focus, and it always has been. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. To be brutally honest, my early focus in my collecting years was buying product. I spent so much money on product. 95 SP, by far one of my favorite all-time products ever. 96, 97, 98. 98, I didn't spend near as much as I did in 97. So I've always gone through spurts. It's one of those in which I can't say I've been the default collector, so to speak, like you, for instance. You've never really taken a hiatus, but for me, I have over the years.
What would be the longest hiatus you took?
Throughout my entire collecting career, I'll use that term, probably 3 years.
Okay.
And part of that had to do with financial reasons. I'm going to be brutally honest here. It's reality.
Yeah.
And when you're a family man, you're married, you have kids, your focus changes.
Mhm.
And, you know, at that point in time of my life, I can't say that I went on full hiatus,
Mhm.
but nothing to the extent of like my YouTube years. If
Yeah.
you look back at my videos, Dave, you and I've had this conversation. And for those of you who are on here who haven't, you know, subbed to my channel or looked at some of my older videos, I was as frequent as Dave was in the posting of videos for pickups. And, you know, it's one of those in which, man, it was, what's going on, man? It was fun. It was a blast. But at the same time, I have a lot of regrets during that time.
Mhm.
And we'll kind of touch on that here in a little bit as we go more into, you know, the inserts and the player collecting aspect of, you know, ultimately what we're trying to go through and discuss here.
Yeah, I don't think I really ever stopped. I mean, there've been you
Cheers,
go.
guys.
I'd say like maybe a month, 2 months, I wouldn't pick up or I wouldn't buy anything back to maybe late teens, early 20s.
What?
But it would be stuff that would go off for a year, 2 years, 4 years. I would thinking collecting back then because I needed like 98 was sort of like, oh, okay, I'm in starting to
I'm
color.
already down. I was
I got lots
looking
of
at
stuff
sugar and
from
stuff.
McGuire or just throwing them all. Everybody was
Just things that were locked up
talking.
in.
But other than that, I mean, I've always collected to some degree. And that's one of the worst parts of collecting because then even if you're finding cards, you still find other stuff you want to collect. I like
Right.
World War II stuff. I love wrestling videos. Look at some of my old videos. I'll get like the Ring of Honor Mail Day, and I'll get 20 DVD things.
Oh yeah, and I remember those.
And that's the thing
And
with I like collecting from the standpoint where I always say it's like people like, oh, you can go to the bar, you can go to the casino, you can go to the racetrack and gamble on the horses. You may get lucky there, do whatever there, in more regards than one, especially if you're at the bar. But to have something that's a tangible item in your hand, money you've worked hard for, and that you really want, that there's no greater gratification than that. Or something in your driveway, if you buy a car or a house or whatever. But I mean, I can't sit there and spend $50 hoping a horse wins. Keep pumping nickels into a slot machine. I want tangible goods, and that's I think what a lot of us collectors like. But a lot of us collectors also will go off and do that to try to get a bigger collection. I'm happy with the means I have, and I'll collect within my means. I mean, I might not have like a 52 mantle or a 57 Mark Star PSA 10, but again, if I get a Mark Star PSA 2, that I'm happy with that. And that's where I think a lot of people have to check themselves, insert wise, collecting wise, player collecting wise. Just collect within your means. Don't go out there and sit there and say, I'm going on Instagram. I see Joe Snow. He's got the best Terrell Davis collection. He's got 9 finite number 1. Like, well, good. He can afford what 250 a pop or whatever it is.
right.
And a good day. No, I'd rather get some of the stuff. And I know you're the same way. You want some of the big cards. At some time, though, some of the big cards just aren't obtainable due to price, and then you have all these old collectors coming out of the woodwork that are like us. Maybe they got away from collecting, and now they're coming back in. Like, hey, I remember that '96 collector guy that wanted the mirrors. Like, I couldn't afford them now, and now I gotta get them up to whatever. I'm gonna go after it.
Right.
So how have you dealt with that? Because I know you've had some ups and downs with some of those recently, but
So bring up a sore subject, Dave.
I think you do it very well.
You know, it's one of those that, as a collector, and especially as a player collector, and for anybody who's in here and actually watching, even if you have multiple player collections, okay, this is not just focus as a super collector aspect. I know a lot of people like a lot of guys. Okay, I'm a Denver Broncos fan. I do have a Broncos auto collection, you know, so it's one of those in which I like that stuff too. But for me, I have strictly focused on Terrell Davis. And living through the regrets of not doing things sooner, especially from an insert perspective, it's one of those in which you see a lot of things come, you see a lot of things go, and you're cussing, and Dave can relate. He and I exchange texts frequently as it pertains to stuff that we're watching, stuff we're wanting to go after. And most of it, it's not anything newer than 2000, because those were our prime collecting years. And by prime collecting years, although I started early on in my life and, I had a ton of cards even then, those were the prime years. That's when I was working. It was my money. I could spend it on what I wanted because I was working. I was also in college, but I was living at home. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a lot of excess expenses, so to speak. But, to circle back on the highs and lows and the ups and downs as of late, it's tough. It's tough, especially knowing that, at least for me personally, if I would have reshaped my focus in my prime YouTube years, and instead of trying to reach that plateau of 200 autographs, mm-hmm. Because I hate to say this, that's what people want to see. Mm-hmm. At least during that time, that's what people wanted to see. The whole insert revolution had a small little stint within those prime years to where a lot of people were focusing on those. Let the NDVs contest. Show your top 10 non-autograph or memorabilia cards. And man, I enjoyed the hell out of watching those videos. And I enjoyed making mine. It made me actually dig deep into some of my boxes that I very rarely look at to try and pull out a few things. So, that was refreshing. But here's some prime examples of some of the highs and lows. And Dave, these, but for those that, are interested, there is one guy on eBay, and it's a lot of people have negative feedback on him, whatever. It's is it TNT in whatever it is.
He's up in New York.
Right. And somehow, shape, form, or fashion, he has obtained a crap ton of 90s inserts, not just from a football perspective, but hockey, which, that's been Dave's big push really as of late. And multiple copies, guys. We're talking, you see the same card listed 3 and 4 times. I lost out on a 96 Mirror Red. And it sold for what I would consider way too much money. So, that's not a regret. I'm actually very thankful. But then, you have the mirror gold aspect. It went for what I thought it would. Excuse me. No, don't embarrass this one.
She wants to. No!
I've got my wife and my kiddo here. Whoa.
Go say hi.
So, Dave, it's been a long time. You haven't seen, that's Victoria.
No, jerk.
13.
What did you get?
Makes you feel old. And then
you miss us.
There's my wife. Sorry, guys.
I just bombarded you guys.
All right.
Ow! I'm going to get in the shower. Yeah, Mom.
I haven't seen any more chats. Or any more comments. I don't know if anybody else is commenting or not, or if everybody's just kind of sitting here and listening. But Mirror Gold, it went for like almost $90. Not that is unreasonable. But later on he had another one and it sold for like 62 or something. And it's like, where the hell was I? Situations like that, you're sitting there going, okay, maybe the time wasn't right. So it's one of those in which you got to look at things. Timing is everything. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why I didn't pick up my precious metal, years ago. Most people didn't watch my video or comment, but that's a recent pickup. And, way too much. But as a player collector, that is a must. if your player played in those years. So,
Yeah, that's the thing with a lot of those rare cards. We've talked about the PMGs, we've talked about the precious metals, we've talked about like the platinum medallion type stuff and the select certified mirror red premium stocks.
Yep.
That stuff, even back then, you could have got, I'm not going to say pennies on the dollar because you couldn't. But comparative to today's prices, I know what you paid for that, and you had lamented you could have got that a heck of a lot cheaper 10 years ago, 5 years ago. The Bledsoe that I picked up, I thought was a deal at that point.
Oh, you stole that. Dave, you stole that. There is no doubt about it. You stole that card.
And
you should have been arrested. I'm just saying. I mean, that was freaking phenomenal.
And I missed a Brunel, I think about a week later or 2 weeks later from that same guy had a bunch more up.
Yep.
And I forgot to go for the Brunel, and that went for 82. And I'm just like, that's another guy I had a fairly good collection of back in the formative years. But that's the thing where we'd start collecting. You started Terrell. Anybody who's seen my videos over the years, there's plenty out there, people. If you want to have a lifetime of boredom but knowledge, you got about 1,100 videos of mine you can sift through. But I've collected so many players, but that's the fun part I've always thought. Like, okay, maybe the Kerry Collins collection or the McCown stuff, there's nothing popping up. Well, I've got Northcutt, I've got Josh Johnson, I've got Matt Dumba, I've got Brodeur, I've got Bledsoe, Curtis Martin, Favre, insert stuff. I mean, I can always shift around. And even if I don't find those guys, I can find some insert of somebody that I really like or an insert set. And, hey, I'll pick a couple of those up. I'll pick some Natron stuff up because you know what? I haven't done that in about 5 years. Why not? So, I mean, that's the fun part of this is when you've mostly done Terrell Davis. I want to get in a minute some of your other collections you've had over the years. Because you said you collected Bledsoe at one point. I want to hear about that. But, I mean, that's the fun part about this. You can collect multiple players on a budget.
Yes.
A ton of fun and not ever really get burnt out because, oh no, I missed this one. Well, again, then there's that one or this one or those. You can always, it's like a freeway, I'm guessing, in California. There's multiple lanes and you're going to have fun in all those lanes. Probably not if they're driving, but I mean, collecting-wise, it's going to be fun and you're going to open yourself up to so much more knowledge than just sticking with, okay, I'm going to collect one soda. That's it. Well, then you're going to miss what Mahomes is doing or what Lamar Jackson is doing. You're not, if you pigeonhole yourself, you're doing it just an incredible injustice to your sports knowledge and your hobby knowledge.
Well, and that's also like where, from my perspective, I've stuck with an older guy. You know, I could have picked Elway. You know, I could have picked Tim Tebow. Yes, I'm going to say it. You know, but at the same time, when you mention, you know, collecting on a budget, whether that be small, whether that be large, you know, is irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, you know, collect what you like, collect what you enjoy. You know, that's been your mantra as of late. And I know there's a few other tubers out there that are really trying to, you know, push that mantra as well. And although, and like, for instance, for me, TDE is still coming out in 2020 products. And to be brutally honest, for 2 cents, I would drive out to Grand Prairie or wherever the hell freaking Panini is these days and give a swift kick to you-know-whose butt. Because he's a Broncos fan. He loves his Broncos. And he's part of the reason why there's been more of or I should say a higher resurgence of the number of cards that they were producing of Terrell Davis in newer products. And I don't care. For those individuals who have watched, you know, some of my recent videos, I have completely shifted focus. Every once in a while, if I can find a good deal, I mean, I'm not going to pass up a printing plate for $20, $25. No, I'm not going to do it. My 2 black finites, Michael, this film not yet rated. I saw him in here. I don't know if he's still in here hanging out, but we had a really in-depth conversation because the first one I purchased was a buy it now best offer. And I was going back and forth. And I'm like, I'd rather have this one because it was out of Topps Tech and it was the Black Galactic 101 auto. And it's like, man, it's a beautiful card. It's on auction. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe I can get both. Well, I missed out on the Galactic. Okay, so big deal. So when we were talking, he was giving me, price ranges based on what he paid for clay. And I know, from a clay perspective, there's a lot of times in which he pays a larger chunk on some cards than what I do for Terrell Davis because he's an active player. And that really does change some of the dynamic. I saw that. But he gave me price ranges. I submitted an offer. He accepted it, And then the next one, the Apex parallel version or the Apex insert, popped up. And I'm like, okay, I got this. Now I can go for both of them. So I'm not saying, like, from my perspective, that some of the newer stuff doesn't pique my interest. But I've really rechanneled my energy and my funds, for that matter, on stuff that I didn't pick up years ago when I could have gotten it cheap. But the nostalgia and what I would consider iconic inserts of the 90s, I'd rather have those. I'd rather spend those big bucks on those cards all day long because to me, they mean something. I know that sounds really cliche, but they mean something. And they mean something to me because of that being my prime collecting years.
I like the odds on the packs back then. That was something that, you got a pack, you flipped over the seam or whatever, and you wanted to look at, hey, okay, this is like a 1 in 8 insert. I'll be happy if I get the 1 in 24. Okay, that's the 1 per box. There's the 1 in 72. There's the 1 in 144. There's the 1 in 288. And then if you had something huge, it was like 1 in 720 or 1 in 28,000.
Yeah, 1,800. Yep.
It wasn't like Topps today where it's like if you open a blaster of Topps baseballs and you look at that pack, there's about 60 numbers on there for all their parallels to everything. That's all well and good, but everything's serial numbered over that.
Right.
I want something that I know I'm probably not going to see, but if I do, you just get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, like, oh my God, is this what I think it is? Did I pull something I never even thought I'd pull? And that's what I always go back to, and I'm talking in the videos I've been doing about like the pulls.
Yep.
I try to get that across because, again, the boxes weren't 10 packs. It wasn't 12 packs. It wasn't like 16 or 20.
24, 36.
Yeah. Yep. It wasn't this 10-pack stuff where if you hit like 2 mirror golds in a box, it's like nobody cares. There's a 25 and nobody cares.
Yep.
You hit something with the 1 per box insert back then, no matter who it was, you were just stoked because you hit the box full. And that, it could be O.J. McDuffie. It could be Keyshawn Johnson third year. It could be a Terry Glenn second year. Nobody cared because you got the box hit.
Yep.
And that's what I think a lot of people just go away from it. And then, even in breakers, you pull something to 5, and if it's not somebody that's a top 5 star, who cares?
Nobody cares. Yeah, nobody cares.
And it's just criminal because those cards, I don't care who it is, I'll pick those up even though I don't like to spend a lot of money on the newer stuff. I'll just pick it up because, again, at some point, it's going to be like the cards that are 20 years old, the Donruss days that people are like, oh my God, I'll pay $15, $20 for a Buffett Brown or Jose Guillen or whoever, Robert Edwards for football. They'll pay that $15, $20 for one because they're so cool and so limited, and you just don't see them. It's criminal.
Well, and on the flip side, and for those individuals, that have collected for a long time. And even those that haven't collected for a long time but have started to express interest in the 90s inserts and, the whole hashtag, insert revolution that, like I said, started some time ago in a small time span within the YouTube community. A lot of people who go back and look at some of those card designs. Maybe it, like you referred to, maybe it wasn't the toughest pull or anything along those lines, but just the designs themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for that time frame, nobody would have the crap that they do these days as it pertains to some of the what people are all high about, the refractors, the atomic refractors, the cracked ice. Cracked ice? No, that's atomic refractor back from, Bowman's best times. It's not cracked ice. Come on, guys. But to understand the history is what really intrigues me most about some of the newer collectors, because whether it's, I don't want to say they're uneducated because that's a little harsh, but for those who don't take the time to really understand and find passion in the hobby, guys that are on here, most people that I see on here are those that are in this for the hobby. It really becomes a detriment. This isn't about, what's the next big thing. Because for instance, like for me, and, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, you probably will agree. The love of this hobby all stems from that 90s time frame. Yeah. And when you see stuff that's coming out in newer product, you're like, that ain't new. You got people like freaking chopping at the bit because it's the newest hot prospect or whatever. And, it's like, oh man, that card design is so cool. Dude, go back to the 90s. That's where that's where the originality and the ingenuity and the creativeness came out. Pacific. Oh my God, Pacific. It is such an undervalued manufacturer, but holy shit. They have some of the coolest things and the coolest designs that I have ever seen. The laser cuts. I mean, come on. Call me nostalgic. Call me freaking crazy. I don't care, because I loved Pacific. I loved. You have no idea how many boxes of products that I busted of Pacific, just because the freaking inserts intrigued me. They were cool as shit.
You had the Gems of the Crown, you had the Gold Crown die cut, the Kramer's Choice, which again were not even a case hit. Those weren't even a case hit because they didn't want to guarantee them one per case. That's why you had the 1 in 728 odds.
Yep.
You had the Google die cut. You had the, what was it, the 96, where you had the card on the back and then you had the card on the front that was the
Marsupials. No. Oh, what is that?
I want to say it was Invincible. You had where you could put the card on the front that had the acetate picture over, and then the card on the back was just it was two separate cards. But when you put the two together, you could.
Are you talking about the litho cells?
Yes. I mean, you had stuff like that where it's like, okay, I've got one card, but now I need to get the other card to make this super cool. It always was, and I think that was the tagline, I think, for the Marsupials. Like it was a chase within a chase or card within a card. That's the same thing. You couldn't have a completionist, just couldn't have the Mike Piazza and the Marsupial and have like Frank Thomas mini on the back. You wanted to have the Thomas and the Thomas and the Piazza and the Piazza. You wanted to box them up. So that continues to create the chase for the stuff. So, I mean, they had so much die cut ingenuity then. And you look, Panini's tried to do it. They tried to do the Prism stuff. and it doesn't look nearly as good. They don't have the foil replica that they could. They do it on like Flawless, which is nice, but Pacific did it with Pacific. That was their bread and butter. They did it with Crown Royale, which was supposed to be like the higher end stuff. They did it everywhere. They didn't just, again, pigeonhole themselves like Panini would. Hey, we're just going to put foil on the high end stuff, and all the
Right.
low end stuff, that's all you're going to be chasing is silvers or refractors. It's amazing.
Thank you for
people-
highlighting that, Dave. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, don't
That right there, that comment that you just highlighted says it all.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's one of those in which I didn't want to interrupt you because I know you had points to make, but it was like, holy cow, that was like spot on.
Yeah, that's the thing that happened. And again, what I love then that isn't happening now is the exclusivity of licensing. You don't have competition, so you know what? You're never going to have anything that looks any different than what it currently looks like.
Yep.
Because nobody cares, because they already have you buy the balls. You know why? Because breakers and everybody else can charge whatever they want for the same damn product every year. Minor adjustments. Oh, this has this there. You know what? You had 2 or 3 people in the game. Guess what? You got to up your game, or you're going to be out of the game.
Yep.
And that's something that people don't realize. They just buy into the same crap every year. Again, your money, you do what you want with it. But we have 3 or 4 different producers of cards, companies out there. You're going to see a whole different game. It would be completely different. It would be the 90s all over again, because you'd have to do something to keep people buying. It wouldn't just be,
Right.
oh, here's a Juan Soto autograph, here's an Acuna autograph, here's a Luis Robert autograph. Try to get it. When base cards of these guys are going for $100, a Topps base card, a Topps Chrome base, and you can get a Brett Favre, a Marino, an Emmett, one per case plus inserts.
For
Maybe
20, 30, 40 bucks.
Yeah, in case of a couple blasters.
Yep.
I don't know. I know I live in an alternate universe, but
No.
at the same time, it's just like, why would you spend $100 on an ungraded rookie card of a guy who's never played a game? No auto, no patch, no serial numbering, when there's stuff you know is a finite amount, and get something of a guy that's already in the Hall of Fame that looks absolutely stunning.
Yep.
Why would you not want to get a Curtis Martin that's one per case, die cut, and has that leather texture to it? And foil. Everybody wants foil.
Well, and something else to think about. That's out of 97 SPX or Skybox Premium. Okay. I bought a shit ton of that too in my 90s. Love the product. It's I don't want to say it was innovative by any stretch of the imagination, but I love the base card design.
Yes.
And one of the big pushes for Skybox Premium for me was they had a contest within Skybox products that year. And the whole objective was to spell Skybox.
Mm-hmm.
They had letter cards that randomly inserted in packs and everything else. Now, I don't remember what the hell the prize was at the end of the day, but it was one of those. It's like, that'd be really cool. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I had some sort of interest with what that actually would be. Mm-hmm. And my guess is like the X was probably, there was only so many, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But that's irrelevant. That's not where I'm going down the path with this. I probably busted, now not sealed cases by any stretch of the imagination, but I probably busted close to 2 cases of Skybox Premium. That's how much I enjoyed it. To give you an idea, like I said, loose boxes, not a sealed case, so you're never guaranteed anything when you're looking at it from that perspective. I never once pulled a larger than life. Okay, so always wanted one, never pulled one, but that's one in which I've always wanted to pull. Okay, I pulled one, count them, one Skybox Ruby parallel, numbered to 50. One.
And now, like today, you pull a Topps Black, which is sort of the flagship for baseball, and you get that. And once again, you don't get a big player. Those used to command, even 10 years ago, those commanded, I bought a Buster for $15,
Yep.
$20. Those, I bought a Buster Posey at a show. I don't know if it was the one back in February, but it might have been one last year. I bought that for $5. Buster Posey. Surefire Hall of Famer, in my opinion. I mean, he's got 2 titles and I think maybe a batting championship or 2 in there, but it's like, look, people are just so, such tunnels. So whoever's pumping out whatever is top, that's where the focus is lost. That's where you and I can make clean up the scraps, which we love the scraps anyway, but most of the time, it's stuff that everybody should be just at least considering. You want the Hall of Fame cards, you want the Hall of Fame players, you want the Hall of Fame awesome ones. Don't just stick with the rookie cards. Don't buy the secondary cards. You can get like the Marinos that larger than life. You can pick that up for like $30.
You can.
$30. I got my card for like 22.
Oh, I remember it. And that's one thing that for me, everything that I send to you, of course, is TD related. You know that because that's really been my sole focus.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the texts and pictures and stuff that you send me is all things that I love to see. And it's not that I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm.
It always piques my interest because it's like, Dave's going for this. Maybe I ought to. No, I would never do that, Dave. But hey, kiddo, can you turn that down just a little bit? Thank you. Sorry, Snoop. But a lot of that stuff piques my interest because you specifically have such a vast collector base as it pertains to what you're looking for. Now, I know you have your player collectors, but you're not an Emmitt Smith guy. You don't collect Emmitt Smith as your prime. I know you have a side Favre PC. You've always kind of had a man crush on Favre. But at the same time, that's never been a focus. And, as you continue to find some of those rare, okay, maybe not even rare. Let's not even use the term rare. Let's use the term of high pack odd pull cards. Some of the prices that you pay on them are they're almost criminal. And for somebody who enjoys those prime years of collecting, I have to say I'm not jealous of you, Dave. Okay, maybe just a little. It takes me back to those years of seeing that stuff being pulled in the shop at that time. And even though I had the money then, my focus was just like way off in left field, busting product, bust product, bust product, bust product, bust product. Now, did I collect a few sets over the years? Absolutely. Do I have, not to kind of change the subject to it, but I'm also a set collector. Most people have no freaking clue about that. That's not something that I share. But bottom line, at the end of the day, as a collector, you're always, me personally, this is my opinion. We've always alluded to this. Going back to what I said earlier, collect what you love, collect what you enjoy. But stop focusing on what's next or the next big thing. Collecting is a hobby and it's a long-term investment. If we're going to use the term, Dave and I were talking about this before the show started. Those individuals who collect, player collect, super collect, We are technically investors, okay? By all accounts of the definition, we are investors. We are long-term investors. And, because guess what? When we're 6 feet underground, who gives a shit what happens to what we have? It goes to my wife and my kids in hopes that it's a substantial amount of money, because I've focused my collection on not just what I can pick up and flip quick.
Mm-hmm.
This is all about the long term. And, I could be wrong. You could be wrong, Dave, at the end of the day. Uncle Vinny, you're absolutely right. And me personally, I haven't collected a set in a long time. And that's because, unfortunately, with the high prices of retail these days, they're driving the prices of the hobby product as well, to where your best bet is to just go spend the money and buy a set on eBay, which is what I did later on with my Topps Chrome sets. I'm a huge Topps Chrome guy, and yes, it is strictly football. I have a complete run, except for 2001, because my stupid ass didn't bother to, just do what I was doing later on. You know what? They're all refractors. They're all numbered to 999. You only get 1 or 2 rookies per box. Why spend the money? I used to build my sets, my Topps Chrome sets. 96 through 98 I built, and that's by purchasing boxes. 99 I bought. 2000 I bought because I got a hell of a deal, and it was included in a deal for I don't know if I want to share this, because people are probably going to shit their pants when I tell them how cheap I got it for. It was 2000 Topps Chrome. This was a big set lot that I bought. It was 2000 Topps Chrome. Jamal Lewis was graded a 9, which was not great.
Yeah.
2000 Upper Deck Encore. 2 1990 Score Supplemental. Okay.
Emmets.
Yep. Also included an 89 Score set.
One of the most iconic.
Most iconic, as far as I'm concerned, the most iconic set during that time frame. I got it for under $100. All of that for under $100. I stole it. Okay. Which is why it was like, why wouldn't I buy 2000? Why wouldn't I buy that lot that included that? 2001 I missed out on. Stupid me. I had opportunities years later to pick up sets and everything else. I just didn't do it. 02 I'm still short a few cards, but I built it by opening packs. 03 same way. 04 I bought a case. 05 I bought a case. 06 I bought a case. 07. You can see the trend. And then after 08 I stopped and just started buying the sets because it was more feasible. Because you're hoping for that big rookie, that big rookie autograph, in hopes that you can, flip it, make part of your money back that you invested in the case. Well, at the end, I'm sorry. The things I know now and my thought process now, I wish was that way then, but it isn't. And as an individual, as a collector, we have our trials and tribulations. We have our ups and downs. We have our regrets. And, we talk about those consistently. And that's also what makes it enjoyable is, although we have those regrets, it's not to the point to where it's like, oh, screw this. I'm done. What was I thinking? Because there's still that enjoyment. And once you get away from the enjoyment of what it is, get the hell out. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Once you lose the enjoyment, once you lose the passion, or I don't want to say the drive, but when you lose the passion and what originally got you started in collecting, step away. I don't mean like leave and just like go far away and don't ever come back. Step away. do a deep dive, look at your habits, go back to what made you happy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where you and I kind of differ from a collecting perspective, because I would go in my hiatuses. I never fully went on hiatus. I did have my 3-year span of where it was like every once in a while I'd pick up something small type situation, but I'd get away from Terrell Davis, for instance, and start focusing on sets. Whether I'd have my list of sets of ones that I picked up, and sets is a lost art. I know it was mentioned in here. It's really a lost art,
Mm-hmm.
and not just from an individual busting packs and building one themselves, just in general, because there's a lot of great deals out there. If you're patient, you can get sets with big name rookies for the same price that you could buy like the big name rookie out of that set.
Oh, easily.
If you're patient.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that kind of deviates from, the whole player focus, but at the same time, I think it's important to look at, the multiple aspects of us as collectors and the hobby in general.
And that's where I know set collecting now, and I'm not speaking as a set collector, because I tried to do that a couple times, and it's just, I buy like a huge lot of something, like a Leaf Limited 2000. I bought a bunch of that, but I couldn't fill out that. What would have been 301 on or 201 on the rookies. They were staggered, numbered, and then I think it was 400 and up. It's like 420 with the ball and the jersey.
Right.
But I mean, that's stuff that I never got into, because it's just like, I don't want to say I'm instant gratification, because I'm not. But if I want to buy something, I want that to be something I really want. I don't want to sit there and build. Even though I know I'd enjoy it when I'm done, it's just something. Player collecting for the long haul is more enjoyable than set collecting for the long haul.
For you.
But today, you have the
For
same
you.
photos.
For you.
The same photos are on most of the cards. You look at like the front, it might be like grayed out or something and looks cool, and then you flip it over, it's the same picture. You have 100 cards. You don't have like the cool league leader cards anymore. I want the top set where it's a lot more, like, or baseball wise, I want more multiplayer rookie. I like that. I like the league leaders. If you're gonna have league leader stuff, have it where it's okay. War, have some of these new stats that everybody loves. Do that. But then you price your people out, because now a blaster, you can't find it at Target, you can't find it at Walmart, you can't find it anywhere. You look in the secondary market, 34, 55, $70 for a blaster, depending on what it is. You're not going to get, and again, it should never be about this, but when you look at it, you can't sit there and say, well, if I spend 20 on a blaster, okay, that's fine. Whatever. I mean, just something to rip open, have fun. If I spend 70 on a $20 blaster and I pull
Nothing.
if I pull a Landis Gary's jersey card, well, I just spend $70 on a Landis Gary jersey card, and I have like 10% of the set. So now I've got to go out and buy the set single by single, because I'm not going to spend another 70 or whatever on a blaster. That's one of the big things that the breakers, the pumpers, all these people, the influencers, when you just constantly go after the one player and people are starting to pick up that, all the Aaron Judge stuff in 2017, that's where a lot of people I know think that retail, that light came on, and it's like, wow, okay, we got to buy retail at all costs. When you have that, you can't sit there and realistically and financially make it feasible and sensible to put a set together by just breaking packs, busting wax. You have to sit there and do what you've done. Just pick it up on the secondary market from somebody that busts a case. I don't want all these cards. Maybe it'll be like the one key rookie is short. I'll go get that for whatever, $30, $40. I'll pay that, get the set for 10, so I'm still in it for 50, which whatever, or I'll wait for like the baseball. I showed him the video earlier today, pimping this podcast. Just buy the set around Christmas time. Those Topps baseball sets, that would be it's like $50. Then you're done. Seal it. It's good. But you can't feasibly and financially make it a sensible purchase to sit there and say, I'm going to buy packs and I'm going to try to hand collate a set. It just won't. It just doesn't jive.
Well, and something else to keep in mind, though, too, is all the way up through, 2010, 2009, 2010, and I'm strictly speaking from a Chrome perspective. I don't remember when they started implementing short print variations. I can't remember. Not that I give a crap about short print variations.
Yeah.
I could give two craps. But, at least when I was doing my Topps Chrome run, because I loved Topps Chrome, and for 2 cents, I'd go back in time and give me a swift kick in the ass for not doing basketball because of Kobe. But, yeah, my years of collecting basketball were probably stupid because I've kind of gone, football, baseball, basketball. I've kind of bounced around a few times in my collecting career. But, if you bought a case of Topps Chrome, you knew you got a set. Mm-hmm. You knew at the end of the day, at a bare minimum, you would have a complete set.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, because it was the newest release or whatever, you could get a small percentage chunk back if that's what your ultimate objective was. Buy a case, turn around, sell a set, sell some of the rookie singles, the refractors, the whatever,
mm-hmm.
to make up some of that expense for whatever reason. But later on, when you started throwing out, the SP variations and stuff, which I think is stupid, but whatever. It really changed my mindset from a set collecting perspective. That's when I ultimately was like, you know what? Screw this. Why spend X number of dollars to sit on stuff that I really have no interest in, so to speak, other than I want my base set. End of conversation. That's all I want. I can remember, so I'll throw a small Topps Chrome story. My first case, and I know I mentioned earlier that I bought a case of 04. I didn't. Looking back and thinking back on history, I know that's kind of scary. 04, I actually built my set on random boxes. A lot of work, but I still was able to do it. 05 was my first ever sealed case of Topps Chrome. So Aaron Rodgers, Alex Smith, Cadillac, Ronnie Brown, most people know the guys. Well, Alex Smith was the big guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers was not really a thing in 05.
No.
Of course, the big push was the X-Fractors, the box topper X-Fractors, the autograph version, or just the X-Fractor version. Well, of course, I didn't get anybody great because the pack pull odds were fairly high from that perspective. And even with me collecting for as long as what I had, I thought I hit the lottery. I pulled the Alex Smith Black Refractor, number 200. And I thought I was like the shit because it had just come out. I was on my lunch break at work, opening my case on my lunch break in the break room at my office. And I'm like, woohoo, in black refractors, those were huge. Mm-hmm. You didn't get a crap ton of case. And to pull the top rookie, you're thinking, man, this is great. I had my card shop sell it for me, $100. $100. Now, at the time, that was a big deal because at that point, there was no higher hype for him at that point in time until, later on, he started making a name for himself in Kansas City, and so his stuff spiked again and things along those lines. But at that point in time, outside of his autograph, that was huge, and all it was is a black refractor, number 200. Nothing truly special, nothing fancy, but it was black refractor, and I almost wish I still had that card. So that's where you also get into those regret things. But something as simple, as Topps coming up with the refractor, the chromium technology first, and then coming out with the refractor, and now everybody's all on the prism kick, and it's like, no, guys, no.
No, and what I love what Topps did with the 2000 and 2001 Chrome was they numbered the rookies.
Yes.
And then 01 had the black refractor, I think, parallels.
They did.
And I think those were lower numbered. 100?
I don't remember the numbering, but either 100, 199 is what comes to mind. It's going to be one of those two.
Because I think the 2000 ones, they just had the refractor version. That was the 150. I think I got Northcutt. I think he's in there. If I remember, because again, I haven't looked through my Northcutts in ages, which I should do. But that's what I like. I like just a couple refractors, a couple variations. Now it's literally you have Skittles throwing up on Skittles, throwing up on Starburst, throwing up on Mike and Ice. For the color combination. Just like, how many is too many? I don't need 40 variations of Panini Prism to try to get that rainbow. One's numbered at 7, one's a Target exclusive, one's a Walmart, one's a good
right.
one's a Salvation, one's online if you're on the site between 1245 and 1250. Like, you need to have some sort of checks and balances within the company, but people don't. That's the thing. It's just like keep pushing it on, keep pushing it on, envelope. And back then, it was like I just want to get a refractor. I don't want to. I don't need like a purple hexagon whatever refractor. Give me a regular refractor. Give me a black refractor. Get me an atomic. I don't need any, or whatever, the X-Factor. I don't need anything else. But I mean, that's the thing. It goes from that, the Topps Chrome. Then everybody needs every parallel, because I know Leaf Limited, Donruss, and that was sort of their downfall. They just got so many products that everything was for 5 to 10, 25, 50. Then you saw that then, and then the autographs started pumping out, and then everything really started getting away. But that was the time too. Everybody wanted an autograph. Everybody wanted it. So again, I see that, but then it was just overkill. Where I mean, that's all you're looking through value boxes, and you're seeing jerseys for like 2 for 5, 5 for 10, stuff like that. And again, that's not bad at the time, but nobody ever came around and said, you know what, let's temper back these jerseys. Let's temper back the autos. Let's not make rookie autos like just gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs of the same thing.
Sorry, I was laughing at the comment, Dave. Oh, that was good, Bob. Oh, man.
It was just troubling where everything you'd go through all these autos, and you could tell people are getting burnt out because you're not, or the jerseys, you're getting the player worn, you're getting the event worn, you're getting stuff that Joe Namath walked out on somebody's Ring of Honor or Ring of Fame thing, and that's what they cut up. And you're putting that in Flawless, you're putting that in National Treasures, you're putting that in Immaculate. These are not cheap products. You should ever put any of that stuff in. Nobody cares. And you've gotten completely away from your inserts or stuff that's amazing, quality-wise and innovation-wise, But guess what? Nobody cares because, oh, I want to touch some fabric that Joe Namath slept in a ditch on drunk. Who cares? Nobody.
Well, and that, it's kind of funny that, that I just kind of read Michael's comment, though, too. He and I have shared interactions via text. And, when you have National Treasures and Flawless and these expensive ass products, cough up the dough, folks, from a manufacturing perspective. This event worn shit, If you want to put it in the low end stuff or your retail stuff, whatever, that's great. But when you're spending, $1,500 a box, not a case, a box, there better not be no event worn jock strap that I'm going to pull of anybody. I'm sorry. That is just beyond unacceptable. Oh, I remember that too. I mean, it was kind of a cool concept because it was the rookie premiere and they did the hats off stuff, with the rookie premiere. I'm not going to sit here and dog a lot of the manufacturers because they have to be innovative consistently. If not, then they're going to lose some of their base. But at the same time, when you start injecting 15 and 20 parallel versions of the same card as well, what purpose does it serve? Seriously, what purpose does it serve other than that right there just demonstrates you are all about the money? And I get it. It's a business. I understand it's a business. I get it. You're in business to make money. But listen to your collectors.
Mm-hmm.
Your collectors, the ones who are spending the money. Oh, I remember that too, Ed. Listen to your collector base. We're the ones, maybe there's more of us than there are breakers and investors. Granted, we may not have as much money, so to speak, but we're the reason why you're still in business. And will still be in business after the investors get a swift kick in the ass and they lose their shit, or people no longer want to get involved in breaks of the same repeat crap over and over and over again. I call me crazy, call me whatever, but I don't understand because, and this is why we always go back to the 90s thing. Mm-hmm. Those were prime years of collecting. The innovation, the design, the rarity, and things along those lines. That is what really kept, and the multitude of manufacturers for that matter, it kept an influx. And it was almost refreshing because you were looking for, okay, we have tops coming out here, then you got chrome coming out here, and now I'm talking mid-90s, for instance. But, and then all of a sudden you've got Skybox releasing some new type thing that they're trying, and then you've got Pacific in their sell sheets. I've got a random dog sitting up here. You're going to have to excuse me for a second. I think this is one of my neighbor's dogs. Hold on, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to what Steve's point was, you have all this innovation coming on. Skybox comes up with Sky Motion. Not really a hit, but they're at least throwing their hat in the ring in a different direction, saying, well, let's try it. See if something sticks to the wall. You had Select come out in 94, 95. And then they try Select Certified in 96. Sort of their tops chrome. And it hit. So now that comes out. Then you have Pinnacle Certified. And then you have Pinnacle Totally Certified. It's stuff like that where, again, at least you're trying something different and trying to be innovative instead of putting out the same shit. And to what Steve was saying, too, about listen to your collectors, yeah, the people are buying into the breaks, but when they sell the stuff in the secondary market, guess what happens? People like me, people like Steve, people like the ones that don't want event worn garbage littering national treasure, national treasure, flawless, immaculate, the big high end stuff. Even with Topps baseball, I don't want to have a lot of their game used stuff because you know what? It just says this piece of relic is not used in any specific game. J.C. Penney rack that's on discount. I mean, it's so vague that you don't know where it's coming from, and that I don't need some sort of um, just random softball league jersey being worn by Dave Winfield, and now, oh, that's a game used relic in Topps. You look back at the game used stuff that came out in like '96 for Collector's Edge basketball and Collector's Edge
I came out, I saw your thing, I flipped your
President's
computer
Reserve.
that way.
You had all these game used cards then that are still very nice now. They go for a premium amount. The upper deck, look for those upper deck 96. Those cards still go for the stuff now, though. You can pick up a Dan Marino jersey. You try to pick up that 96, either a teal or white jersey card from upper deck. Good luck. You're spending 80 to 120, yeah, if you're lucky on the low end. But the card companies don't care because they've got the breakers pimping the stuff out. Oh, you get a Patrick Mahomes auto. You know what? You get a Joe Namath game or event worn jersey. You get a Jim Brown event worn jersey. You get a Bob Lilly event worn jersey. It might have an auto on there. That might be cool. Give me a game used patch Jim Brown. I'm going to spend that money that way. I'm not going to buy this event worn stuff. I've got some of that in the collection. I'm ready. I've been ready to throw that off in the league for a while. I don't care about it. It
Right.
doesn't do me any good. I mean, that stuff, again, you want to put blaster stuff, the rookie premiere, I get. Have that stuff in your rookie premiere base cards. Put it like the score. Put it in your base tops. Put it in your Panini football or whatever you have, the low end stuff, sort of geared for the kids if they can find it. Put that rookie stuff in there. But don't have that rookie stuff for 4 years. If you can't buy a jersey either from them directly or Gray Flannel or Steiner or whoever, don't put a jersey card in it. Guess what? Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a jersey card after 2017, maybe 2021 he does. You know what? That's going to be a lot more valuable because somebody's going to be like, hey, Panini just got Mahomes and this is going to be his first game used jersey card. Wow, that's awesome. Not 5 years of event worn stuff because he rolled over 3 football fields and touched all these movies. Who cares? Who had that old picture? Somebody with a picture. I don't know how many years ago this was. Mark Ingram maybe had how many jerseys on, and I mean he looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I mean, there's an old picture from the rookie premiere where this dude looked like, I don't know, the two twins from the Guinness Book of World Records sitting on the motorcycle.
I remember that picture.
I'm like, that's what you do. That's how he's touching all these jerseys, and that's what. Who cares? Just get him off the rack at your Dick's Sporting Goods and put him in there. That's better for me than maybe he touched part of it with his hand. It makes no sense. But as long as everybody keeps buying everything, guess what? Nothing's going to change. Yeah. We, the consumers, have to change it, but we can't because we're so addicted to that big pull.
So Ed has a great question. I don't know if you want to highlight it.
Back up here.
Yep. Bob already thinks that it's already started, and to a certain degree, I don't disagree with that. However, everybody still wants the jersey. Everybody still wants the auto because that's the appeal. The problem is they're oversaturated. If they go back to years prior, and you have, I hate to use Proline, but let's be realistic. Proline was like the first autographs back in the early 90s. Some which were numbered to 15,627,000. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but you had Proline portraits Then you had like the classic hand numbered high autographs. They were still ample in those boxes, but at that point in time, that stuff was like considered garbage. It was cheap. But then you start getting into the mid 90s with the introduction of the jersey cards, like you had alluded to earlier, Dave, with Upper Deck and not 95, 96, sorry. And then, I still remember when I got my 97 TD. I still remember it. And it's on YouTube. And I considered it an Eleanor because those things were so hard to pull back in those years that if you pulled one, it was something big. It was something big. Didn't have to be the best player or the worst player within the set, but it was superstars. I mean, they were big name guys. It's not like your Joe Blow second string receiver or anything along those. I mean, it was big name guys. So to a certain degree, Ed, I think there's a slight tilt, but I don't think that's ever going to go away. I don't ever think it's going to be the way that it was before, to where the insert is what really drove the hobby. I don't.
No, I'm the 96 Upper Deck set. If I'm going off memory, Rashawn Salam would probably be the worst player. But at the time, that was a second year back for the Bears, so you had that pedigree there of Peyton and Saint and Neil Anderson before. So everybody's thinking, okay, maybe they got something here. I pulled the Brunel out of a box from Kmart. I was in
no shit.
I was 98 or 99, and I went to Virginia, which is about an hour away. Picked it up because I thought $20, and I'll pick one up. I think there's 2 or 3, but I had like 40 on me. I said, tax is going to push me over the edge. And I bought the one, and I'm sitting in my room doing the Don West. I'm talking like him, being an idiot. Who's going to get those jersey cards? And sure as shit, I opened the pack and I found this a little thicker. I tilt it, see no way. And I mean, they weren't like the flawless ones or immaculate now, where it's like the sole of like a leather, like a Timberland boot. It was just, a little thicker. And I'm like, no. Slow roll, and there's that teal Brunel. I'm like, holy shit, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
that's
that was
2,500 packs.
Yep.
That's why they hold That's why they always hold the value, and you're never going to see one. If you see one of anybody, even Salam, if you see one for Salam for $5, buy every one.
Yeah, just buy it. That is nostalgia. That is history. That is what sparked the jersey revolution or the relic revolution within the sports hobby. From a football perspective, it's one of those in which, and I consider it iconic, because I remember like the sell sheets and everything along those lines, because it wasn't just a hobby exclusive either. You could get it in retail or hobby. And, back in the 90s, a couple bucks a pack was about the standard, until you got to, okay, depends on the product, but base Upper Deck was, a few bucks. But to pull something like that, that is really what sparked the big push for the whole relics. And like I said, in my video that I have on my channel, when I bought my 97, granted the jersey swatch is bigger in 97 than what it is in 96, I considered it an Eleanor because that was something I had seen pictures, I had perused eBay, later on in my collecting years, just to look at them and things along those lines. And it's just like, man, that's like iconic. And those, to a certain degree, are some of those situations which I regret, because those things that changed or drove the hobby, to me, that regardless of who it is, if you are what I consider a collector, somebody should have at least one.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the upper deck jersey, those early year Z teams. I mean,
Oh yeah.
well, that's probably the whole thing, but 95 with the Duplex, 96 the acetate with that shine, and 97 if you got the hollow gold one with that, like the refractor, the mirror gold finish. Those are three completely different looking inserts. That's the same set
Yep.
and are equally as desirable as its predecessor and the one that followed it. I mean,
Well,
that you don't see that now.
well, and that's where the innovation comes in, though, too. It's keeping the collector guessing what's next, but not to the extent of who's next, so to speak. It's one of those in which, oh man, these were gorgeous. Just everything that they threw at this one from a design perspective, it's gorgeous. I'd be satisfied if they did a repeat the next year, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, they changed it. What? Oh man, I don't know. Okay, which one's my favorite now? And then you go to the next year and you're going, well, shit. I can't rank them. I can't rank them because they're all aesthetically different, but so appealing from a design perspective.
And that's where I think Panini's just absolutely botched the Leaf Certified brand, where that was so beautiful. I mean, when you have the mirror red, okay, you got the regular rookie, then you got the mirror red that was like a different patch. You had the mirror blue at times, different years, but it had 3 swatches on there. Yep. Then the mirror gold, emerald, and the black, the one-on-ones, all had 4 relics: the jersey or the patch, the ball, the helmet, and the shoe.
Yep.
And everything was clearly discernible when you looked at it, and of course by the numbering on it. But I mean, every year you're like, oh, what are they going to do this year? Yep. Panini fucking shit the bed with that. That was my favorite, and I know Michael said something about it before. That was my favorite football product. I mean, you never knew what they were going to do, but it was just always so loaded with so much awesomeness. And Panini has made that a complete afterthought and absolutely buried it to the point where nobody cares about it at all. That's criminal. That's
fabric of the game.
Oh,
fabric of the game. Every year it was innovative. They changed it. I mean, they changed it. They changed the dynamic. They changed the visual aspect. They kept it fresh. And not only did you have fabric of the game, but you had, as you alluded to, your various mirrors and everything else. But that whole, when you went from red, blue, gold, emerald, then to black, and then all of a sudden they start throwing in white. Okay, I can deal with white, mirror whites. It adds an additional layer, so to speak. But with Michael busting out, sitting there, when they came up with orange and purple, and all this, it's like, why would you go and change something so I don't want to call it iconic, but something that's a mainstay in the football world? Everybody looked forward to Certified, and you completely took something that didn't need to be touched, really, other than let's keep fabric of the game consistently changing design and things along those lines. But why introduce more stuff? I don't want to call it crap, because as a player collector, it's all about the orange, and it's all about getting some of those. But at the same time, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems more and more these days that that's not the philosophy, and I don't understand why. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And that's why I cross it over to wrestling, because not that you'll care about this or most will, but when you've got somebody hopping like the indies, Like when Bryan Danielson came into the WWF, they didn't want to put him as Bryan Danielson because they wanted their name on it.
I get it.
So Daniel Bryan. Well, he didn't get over in the WWF because he got renamed. He got over because he had a huge fan base that didn't care what he was named. They knew the product that he brought to the table. And that's the same thing that Certified Limited, they both did. And now, again, just trash that nobody cares about. Like, why would you change that? And again, these are just minor changes to the cards back in the mid 2000s, but they're beautiful cards, and again, very desirable in their own opinion, in their own right. But now you've got stuff that's all event worn garbage, and players that you see all the time, they can't go back. Nobody's been smart and said, "Hey, we should probably pick up some Emmitt Smith game jerseys," and instead of putting out 150 game used cards in a set, put 10.
Right.
Then you have something for another set. It's just totally mismanaged.
I do have a question for you, Dave, and I know that this is only going to be an opinion, and I'd be interested to hear, if anybody else has a comment from the chat perspective. Why do you think Donruss, and I'm going to say Donruss, or Leaf, which is what it was before it was Panini,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a hard time calling it Panini because, to me, it's still going to be Donruss and Leaf because of the years.
Yeah.
Donruss Leaf playoff. Why do you think they stopped with the imagery on the back of the card showing the actual jersey and the football in which the material was cut from?
I watched another podcast about that. Brian Gray, who had, I think, Razor, and he is in the game now. And those are unlicensed products. But I mean, he's got some very cool things out there. I think it was a price perspective. So from that vantage point, because I think they had to pay more money from what he said. And I'd have to go back and actually listen to it, and then it passed. But it was something about more money put on the back of the card. That picture of like the game used from whatever it was, the game used football, where they show it. Instead of putting that on there, they said, "Oh, it's from whatever, from a game used."
Well, but from a football perspective, let's be realistic. They could put a picture of any freaking football on the back of a card and say, "Oh, well, this is the football this piece was cut from." How are you going to know? How are you going to know?
I don't know if you can see it at all or pick it up. Probably not. I'll try to send a picture to you. But that's like an autographed football. There's a bunch of SIGs on there.
Oh, wow. So that one I could understand. Okay, so that one has some sort of identifying marks.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, something that, always intrigued me early on in the Donruss League playoff days is that was their additional way of showing that authentication,
mm-hmm.
which, at that time, that was innovative. No other card manufacturer was doing that.
No.
And it added some additional substance to it. Okay, I know that this card that I'm holding in my hand, whether or not it's true or not, there's who's to say that it's not false advertising? What they're conveying is inaccurate. To a certain degree, guys, all of us who collect will never know. We can only go based off of what is on the back of a card, okay? But there's that additional piece that it's like, this is cool. I know exactly where this piece of jersey came from and what game it was from.
Yeah, that. And I think I said that in a recent video. I don't even know when. Maybe today. Like, I bet you collectors, if you threw that cost in there and you actually had game used stuff, of whoever it would be, you threw that cost at whatever the break or whatever the initial product point, price point is, they're not going to care. They're probably going to be even happier knowing, hey, That's a Tyreek Hill jersey from the Patriots championship, the AFC championship game. That's going to be a selling point for us on multiple levels because guess what? You can pinpoint when that jersey was in action, and you can sell that a lot more because of that fact that, oh man, that Chiefs fan, J.W. Smitty, John, he's going to want to buy that first collection because he loves Tyreek Hill and he watches YouTube videos.
I thought you were telling her to come over there and talk on there. I wouldn't have hollered at her if I knew that's what you were
That's the thing that I don't know why they don't do it. You're charging so much for food. Why not give the collector, why not give the breaker, whoever it is, a little hope or a little guarantee right away instead of just throwing a hate. I hope you get the Lamar Jackson, whatever Ron said. No, if you pull a jersey of somebody, guess what? On the back, there's a date from this thing. It's used against Grace Runner or REA auctions or whatever. Just have that piece in mind. And you probably look some of these older collectors back that have been burned by event worn or player worn BS. You're going to get some of these guys back. I was making a conscious effort to these collectors, the people that are actually buying it, not just as a case or whatever, but on the secondary market on eBay, on your Facebook, wherever. You can tease them and at least put a little, not a guarantee, but just have them know that we're thinking of you, we're listening to you, we're trying to do better. We haven't for so many years, we'll try. And it just, you think with all the money they seem to be making,
well, you would think. Yeah, you would think.
But when you start getting all that money and you don't care, you Scrooge McDuck in your gold of cash and you don't care.
Well, and on the flip side, I mean, we all know the expense of game used jerseys. However, you know, as a card manufacturer, you have relationships with, you know, the NFL from a team perspective, but then you also have with the NFL Players Association to use their likeness and their name and so on and so forth. You can't tell me that in those negotiations, you can't dictate or set some price for something that is reasonable for game-worn material. You know, for us as a collector, okay, yes, to buy a game-used jersey of an athlete, you're looking at a couple of $5-6 depending on the caliber of the player. Okay. You get somebody like a Walter Payton type situation, something that's coming out of probably somebody's personal stash or the estate. You're talking of tens of thousands. Okay, I get it. For those type deceased players, or, you know, the Jim Thorpes, you know, just the old stuff, I could understand the amount of money that it would take to procure something like that. But in this days now, we have one manufacturer, okay? In that agreement, you can't sit there and frickin' tell me that you can't get game used stuff these days to put into carts. It says, what does that say? That Clay Matthews. Yeah, and that's, you know, kind of what we were alluding to, you know, Michael, is the fact that there is some substance to what they were putting on the back of those. And, you know, it's an added, I don't want to call it an added collectability aspect, but the fact that, you know specifically where it came from, what game it was from. And if you know, for me being in Texas, I know Texas Broncos fan, I know, kind of crazy. you don't always get to see all the games, but if you have NFL Sunday Ticket or whatever, and that's you make sure that you watch all your games, you know some of those certain aspects of the season. That just adds some level of, we'll call it collectability, for those who play or collect, and for somebody like Michael who collects Clay Matthews, it's an added feature. It makes it that much more
desirable.
It's like, thank you. That's the word I was looking. And it's like, okay, so I couldn't be there to watch the game. I watched it on TV type situation, or maybe I did, but I have something from that. And when you add all of that together, that's what the manufacturers need to focus on. Get outside of this. Okay, how many products can we push?
Mm-hmm.
How much of this event-worn bullshit can they throw out there? So I'm going to kind of go back to the whole flawless thing for a second. And since Michael's still here. So Terrell Davis has some stuff in the recent flawless. It's 2019, but, it always comes out in 2020. We all know that deviation. One of the cards that intrigued me early on was John Elway, Terrell Davis, dual NFL logo shield, autograph 101. I'm like, intrigued, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool ass card, okay, let's see what happens. Somebody pulled it. They put it up on FeeBay. And what was it? Event worn. And I'm like, are you fucking shitting me?
Mm-hmm.
$1,500 a pack. It is two of the best known players in Denver, okay, and two of what I would consider some of the all-time greats. We can debate that all you want, because I know people will disagree with me when it comes to Terrell Davis. That's fine. I don't care. Out of flawless, it's in their freaking Orange Crush jerseys, which is what really intrigued me. NFL logo shield, on-card autograph, 101, and it's event-worn bullshit. And somebody still bought it for like $3,000. I'm like, nope.
No,
$3,000 for event-worn freaking NFL logo shit? You lost your mind? No, don't think so. What's going on?
I like Topps, what they've done with a couple of baseball products. We put that little identification sticker on there. I don't know if it's like tribute or I like that. But again,
it's tribute, I think.
Or if they do that for the NFL, that'd be fine. I get that. Even if you're using the spring training jersey for baseball, that's still 20 games, 25 games, and you've got 162 for the regulars, normal years, not this year of uncertainty. But, and so that's where I could see, again, where if you're Panini, you're trying to use your brain power, what limited brain power you have, why not make more of these inserts? Getting back to that, and doing that, and then the jersey cards can go back to being something that's meaningful, because guess what? You're not going to be inundated with it constantly. Tribute and definitive.
Michael also says
so, and so, I don't know. If I'm thinking, again, like, I think I'd be heading back towards inserts and making those jerseys the case hit. You can have as many autos of these guys as you want. Don't put them on stickers in Flawless. Don't put them on stickers in Immaculate. Unless, again, it's like the low-end undrafted rookies where that's filler. You're going to get that every year.
Don't put stickers in National Treasures.
No. I know it, but you're going to get that with those rookies, that like a Jason White or like Gardner Minshew last year. Would probably be a sticker, just a throwaway auto in the beginning of the year product. later in the year, you probably try to get them on card, but that's the thing. They're going to throw those guys in there because they need something to fill a set other than veterans that nobody cares about. And that's the sad reality of that.
Well, and it's, at least from a 2020 perspective, I mean, this being an unprecedented as it pertains to just the world in general, that really changes a lot of the dynamic. And, I know there's been conversations, and, in some of the previous podcasts that, I've caught blips and stuff with Ed and Mike O and things along those lines. And during even Hobby Palooza, do we think that this is just like a bubble and it's about to burst? And, when you're talking about the dynamics of where we are as a country and as a, worldwide dealing with, what's going on, a lot of that is what's driving some of what's transpiring. You've got individuals that, this is my opinion, but you have individuals that, may have lost their job, out of work, whatever. They're trying to find additional, streams of income, so to speak. Or you've got individuals that are taking advantage of the situation to where some people are unemployed, making more money. Maybe they don't have rent, maybe they don't have this, and they're pumping the market. They're pumping all this, retail stuff because hobby shops weren't open for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you could get hobby product is if, you had an account on Blowout, or, maybe your hobby shop had online sales, whatever. So the only thing they had was retail. But then when you have people who have substantial amounts of money who can, and I'm not faulting these people by any stretch of the imagination. Hey, if you found a niche and you're able to, make some bank, mm-hmm. I'm not faulting these people. I get it. But at the same time, when you have so many people potentially looking at this as like a revenue stream and things along those, it becomes a detriment to the hobby. It takes away from those of us who were here on this, having this conversation. It takes away from people like us who do this for the fun of it. It is a hobby. We do this because we enjoy it. And when you can't go and buy a box of 2020 Topps Chrome baseball retail for, less than $75, $100, whatever, I mean, to me, we got problems here. And from a collector perspective, and as a past set collector, I'm hoping that something does in fact somewhat change, because listening to Ed sometimes have talk about some of his older pack pulls, some of his chases, and it's like, man, spending X number of dollars on 2015 Topps, whatever it is. I really think this is all having to do with the current situation that we're in. Basketball is a whole different subject. I'm not even going to go there. Mm-hmm. But, when you have, I understand what drove basketball. You have, Zion, and, it goes back to the LeBron years. That's like the big hype type thing. LeBron was the big hype in 2003. Zion is, transcended of that same time type situation and that thought process of, what's driving a lot of that product. But what's interesting is, and this is one thing why I still love collecting football, because it's not as expensive. Mm-hmm. At some point, the basketball and the baseball insert type 90s thing is going to hit football as a whole, not just certain iconic cards. As a whole, it's going to hit football. And you've already told me, it's starting to kind of hit hockey more so than what it is even from a football perspective.
And I think it's just we got a lot of hype men that are out there right now, just hyping stuff that if you had any sense, if you have been in this hobby for even 4 or 5 years, you would know it's just on a plate of BS. It's like Trae Young Prism rookies, PSA 10. What are they going for? That's got to be 400, 500 maybe. And that's a base rookie. A base
I don't
rookie.
know. I don't pay attention.
Oh, I think you do. When you can get probably a Marino, and again, I'm sure PSA 10, because it's an off-center card, you're still going to be paying a ton. I know my brother showed me, I think, in some sort of Facebook post, what is the marketplace back last year sometime. I think mid-year, summertime. It was like a PSA 10 Marino for like 1,800. And I thought, or 1,200, 1,800, somewhere in there. I thought that was a pretty decent deal because that's a very off-center card. And you don't see them that often. I'm sure that thing now is probably doubled. All the key stuff is probably doubled. But the people that are doing this new stuff, that's the stuff that I just don't get.
Yeah, it's the shift in the ultra modern of what PSA is slating as ultra modern, which I find it interesting that they've cornered the market. So Ed, this is a question for you. I know PSA has the whole ultra modern, which is an increased price for grading than modern and or going back further. Is SGC also doing that you know of? And do you know if Beckett is doing that now?
What I see too I know it's for Ed, but I think on one of Mike O's videos, he had something about upcharges now too for like the big cards. And he said he sent something in January, and they upcharged him even though he just got it back recently.
Oh, if it's over a certain dollar value, there's an additional added cost to the grading fee?
That's my understanding. So I'm like, if you got like a Luka Prism, just a regular base Prism, that was an upcharge. A Zion Prism, that was an upcharge. So everybody's looking for the buck, even the grading companies, but they're not providing anything that's
extra.
I get that they're backlogged because, again, that's what grading. You got to have that PSA 10. You got to have that BGS Black version. You got to have that SGC or SC. People want that because two things. It's hot.
Yeah.
And that's what people are getting the most money off of. But also, even if you're a collector like us and you see, like, okay, you see the SGC, the PSA 10 Terrell. Instead of looking at a raw card and saying, I don't know if I want to grade it, I'd rather spend X amount if you really want that PSA 10 SP just because somebody has graded it and it's already encapsulated and you don't have to pay.
Okay, so Ed did respond, and then Snoop even. So SGC is still flat. You know that they're going to follow suit because money's to be made.
Yeah, you can't leave money on the table today.
Yep. So it was more just from a curiosity perspective because, there's been times I've, sorted through my insert rookie parallel boxes just to peruse, kind of like what you've been doing as of late with your video earlier. Now, mine is nothing compared to that because for the most part, I've gotten rid of a lot of my autos, jerseys and stuff, whether or not I've sold them or I've given them in care packages. And most of the stuff that I had previously, it's all gone in care packages over the years. But, at the same time, there's times in which it's like, man, these look pretty good. should I start doing these in the some of these group submissions, because it's one of those in which somebody else gets to deal with all of that. But at the same time, it's like I don't want to say I don't understand the whole grading aspect, because it does preserve stuff. But at the same time, to a certain degree, putting a card in a top loader still preserves it just as much as it does in a case, in a grading case, whether you put it in a top loader, a magnetic, or whatever. It's not like it's sealed, but maybe that's just because I never understood the whole grading aspect early on, because when it first came to fruition, and it came a big deal. I still can remember when TD like freaking just blew up, and my local card shop, this is kind of give you an idea of the times. My local card shop, prior to moving locations in the same shopping center, he had his showcase, and some of it was like high touted or high priced memorabilia, football type, or cleats or whatever. But he had two 1995 Select certified boxes in said showcase for $595. And that, was not long after TD broke the 2,000 yard mark in the season. They had the Super Bowl runs, and grading started. And this was not in 95, of course. I couldn't even tell you what years it is, because, my memory sucks sometimes. But from a grading perspective, like a BGS 9.5 or a PSA 10 mirror gold of Terrell Davis during his playing years actually were selling for higher than what they are now. And he's now in the Hall of Fame. Explain that one.
I think, well, at the time, I remember, was a Donruss Preferred? I think 99 Donruss Preferred had the one graded card for Pat.
99 or 2000.
And then Revolution 2000 had the graded card. Same situation. So I know, and that was BGS. So they were, it was really getting their feet wet in the hobby on a national level, not just like, oh, we're in the corner and we're just sort of giggling as we make our way to the middle of the room. So at that point, I'm sure people are like, wow, it says gem mint on it. And after how many years of like shoddy 80s cards, you said that 85 set earlier, that black border, that's garbage. If you get a 10 in that of any player, you're sitting pretty, because that's going to be a card you can easily move. But you see all these cards, and like, oh, I got this card, and it's like, oh, well, the corners are sort of rounded, or it's like get some tipping or whatever. Now you've got somebody else, not you, not the seller, some commercial, third party. Guess what? They've determined that this is a great card, this is a gem mint card, this is a 10, whatever. So you're sitting there like, okay, I'll put my money towards that, and then all of a sudden you get the people that are like just competing against each other, where now, I don't know, again, that should still be a pretty high dollar card. I love that set. That is one of my favorite sets. I'll say that probably about every set, but it's just, you sit there and you see those mirror golds are just, if you have no print line, those are absolutely, take that out in the sun. I always say that for these practice, take it out on a sunny day and just look at it. Yep. Then you have like the select few, the select certified gold team, or the certified gold team, and then what else was in there? Formidable was the next year for select. So, but that was a low end insert with that hologram, that upper deck. made so popular beginning of the 90s.
Oh yeah, early 90s.
And those are like 1 in 6 packs. So I mean, you're not going to find those for $50. You're going to find those. Look at this guy.
Who is this guy?
Wow, James. How long has it been?
That's a blast from the past.
Wow. So,
See what happens when you decide to do something like this? Sometimes you get, old
People-
school.
they're throwing their cellars in their basements. So yeah, I don't know why some of that stuff back then it went for so much, and now all of a sudden it goes for less. But for us, that's a good thing.
Right. And that's like the constant. I mean, it's like this. And you have essential credentials, that precious metal gems, precious metals, essential credentials,
Mirror golds,
or even let's go premium stock mirror red, because there's a lot of people who probably don't even realize that those even exist.
Mm-hmm.
You've got other ones that I would consider just as rare in that time frame, but not iconic.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that driver of those, what I put in the category of iconic inserts, the driver is because of basketball and Jordan. And, this was prior to The Last Dance. Jordan inserts in the mid 90s, 94 through 98, give or take, maybe a few in 99. Jordan inserts is what has driven the prices up for those same type caliber inserts across all other hobby or all other sports, if it is in fact in those sports. Essential credentials, to me, 97 is the iconic, because that was the first iteration of essential credentials. Wasn't something way off the wall. It is a parallel. It's got the silver
cards and stuff.
So, I mean, I'm not taking away from the iconicness of the card, so to speak. But at the same time, it's nothing special. Aesthetically, it's nothing special. But because in that time frame within basketball, and you have Jordan, who, we can argue who's the GOAT and whatever, and we're not going to go into that topic of discussion. But his inserts in that time is ultimately what drives a lot of the prices from, baseball. It went from basketball to baseball, and then, some of the hockey aspect, and then, of course, football. Football was almost like forgotten about. You've got another prime example. You've got Flair hot hands in football. You've got hot glove in baseball, and then I don't remember what the hell it was called in basketball, but it was the same scenario. Hot hands in football. There was a short time, and I'll be honest, hey, I took advantage of it. There was a short period of time in which there was a bubble, I'll call it, for hot hands football. And, as a player collector and buying collections over the years and everything else, you acquire a lot of dupes. I sold hot hands Terrell Davis for like $35, which is way over book value. And it's because, for whatever reason, at that point in time, I never could identify what kind of transpired. There was a big push for them. And, in situations like that, as a collector, we're still looking at ways to improve our own collection. And if that means every once in a while you kind of have to part with some stuff, Unlike Dave here, I don't need 15 copies of something or 30 copies of something.
I'll get into that in a moment.
But, you got to strike when the iron's hot in situations like that. But at the same time, that shouldn't be your focus. It's all about trying to consistently keep your collection fresh and add things that you enjoy as a player collector, and depending on what you want to focus on. I still wish I would have picked up PMG 97 years ago, and I mean like years ago.
Mhm.
I mean, I could have gotten the red and the green for a few $100s. I mean, come on. That in itself, just like it's a knife to the heart, because the ones that are popping up nowadays,
No.
BGS 8, BGS 8.5, they're wanting $15, $18, $2,000. No. I get it, it's iconic, but it's numbered to 100. What it's actually 140.
Yeah.
Because 135, because the greens are 15. But it's like no. And then you've got boxes. Boxes of 97. And the only reason why I know this is because I just did a peek, because I was trying to see if I could find something prior to us going on here. 97 Flair Metal unopened box. $500 and $600 just for the box. And for anybody who knows anything about Flair Metal, precious metal gems were not a one per box. I don't even think they were one per case. They were like tough. And if you pulled a red, you were pulling something fantastic. And it didn't matter how shitty of a player it was. That was huge.
Mm-hmm. That, going back to the selling while iron hot, that's one of the biggest regrets for Josh Johnson. As vast as that collection has become, before I was known for the Kerry Collins, then North, but when I collected Johnson, this is like where you don't want to collect a player, to the extreme on the other end. In 2011, he started off, I think, 4-0 or 4-1. And he had like a 1 point whatever ERA, and his stuff, the top chromes were at like $2-3 before the year. They were $15-20 during that time. Refractors were at like the $40 to $50. Blacks are pushing 100. I had at the time probably about 15 base, probably about 10 refractors, and probably 4 or 5 blacks. I didn't sell any of them. I could have made an absolute truckload of money, put towards something else, but that was my focus at the time. So regimented. I mean, I'd still pick up the inserts when I could. I'd still pick up the secondary collection when I could or wanted. But I was so just zoned in on Josh Johnson that instead of selling stuff at that time, I was trying to buy. And that's, I look back at that and think, man, I should have made a ton of money. I could have put it into some Hall of Fame stuff, then paid pennies on the dollar of what I'm paying now, picked up other stuff, and I just didn't. And again, I regret it, but at the same time, some of the stuff I'm glad I didn't, because I had some of the red refractors. I think I had 2 or 3 to 25 out of Topps Chrome, and I'm like, ooh, if I would have sold those, that would have been a mint and that. But again, they don't pop up even 25. Right. So I don't know. It's in this hobby, you're going to have a lot of regrets
and a lot of ups and downs, highs and lows.
I mean, you're going to have stuff where you said the PMG. I still remember. I've told you this. The 97 Collins Green was on the Beckett buy-sell trade back in 98 or 99. And they wanted $60, $65. Man, that's a lot.
And at the time, it was because nobody fully understood the scarcity,
Mm-hmm.
regardless if it was red or green, because not everybody bothered to look at the back of the packs to see, what the ratio was for some of those. And even if it was one a case, like I said, I haven't gone and looked, but even if it was one a case, that was still a crap ton of money
Mm-hmm.
because, 12 box, 15, I don't know exactly what the case count was because, a lot of things kind of changed during that time frame. But even at a 12 box case, at let's say $65 because, Fleer Metal was also a retail product. So the hobby box pricing couldn't be too much more than the retail because it wasn't a hobby exclusive. So, you got that price differentiation to come into play.
Mm-hmm.
But from that perspective, in that time frame of we can still call it the junk wax years to a certain degree, there was a crap ton out there. There was a crap ton that was produced. So, which is why I still lean towards the fact that I don't think that was even a one per case pull, because if that were the case, you would see a larger number
On the secondary
market being sold.
And that class wasn't that great of a rookie class. You had Byron Hansford, Tony Gonzalez was in the Philly Hall of Famer.
Tiki Barber.
Tiki was in there. But
Ward
you had
Dunn, Corey Dillon.
Good. Yatiel Green. I mean, you had a lot of trash to sift through to try to get any of the decent rookies. Again, back then you had promise, but after a couple of years, you already saw where that draft class was.
Oh,
I mean, meat and potatoes was Dunn, Barber, Tony Gonzalez, and then there's some defensive player that was in there too, because I remember SP Authentic, I think, had a
well, see, so SP Authentic, I also want to say, so Derek Mason, I know he's offensive, but Derek Mason was an SP Authentic 97. Derek Brooks, no, that was 95. Never mind. Rondé Barber, I believe him, was in 97 SP Authentic. And then there's an offensive guy. And it's the one of the guys I'm missing for my 97 SP Authentic set. And for the life of me, I can't think of what his name is. I can picture the card too. Recent Hall of Fame inductee over the last few years, but for the life of me, no, not Peter Boulware. He was in that set, but that's not the guy I'm thinking of. I'm pretty sure he was in the set. Now you're testing my 97 knowledge.
Brad watches this. He's going to be pissed at you. Jason Taylor.
He was in there as well. Yeah, that's another one. But that's not the guy I'm looking for. Because they weren't in the Future Watch, the quote-unquote the Future Watch set, which was the first 20 or 25 cards. It's not Orlando Pace either, but that's another one. But Orlando Pace was 90. Was he 97?
I think so.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back. I'm trying to visually.
You had Pace, Darrell Russell, Sean Springs, Boulware, Walter Jones, Hilliard.
Walter Jones. That's the guy I was thinking of.
I mean, you had some players like Antoine Smith back then. He was somebody that was big. Because again,
at the time,
Thurman Thomas was getting near the end for him. They were trying to push him out because that whole team was starting to get way too old. So again, you had players then, but you didn't have that strong rookie class like 95. 96 was buoyed by all those wide receivers.
Yep, Keyshawn, Marvin. Yep.
T.O. I mean, you had so many receivers in that class. And then 98, you had obviously Fred Taylor, Moss, Manning, and Ryan Leaf. But yeah, that 97.
Can't forget Ryan Leaf.
Believe me, I didn't. I spent some money on him. But for that 97 class, you just didn't have anybody. So that's why I'm thinking a lot of that metal never really got busted. But then you have the basketball, the PMGs out of basketball really hit. And
Yeah.
now even like the base cards, you get a 10 of like a Jordan, that's not selling for like 20, 30 bucks. That's 2, 3, 4, 500 or more. I mean, these are just base cards because, oh, the design is cool. Well, what about the inserts from every other sport? You can't. Oh, look who pops in.
Yeah,
Right?
I was going to say, look who just joined. His ears must have been burning.
If you say, well, these cards are awesome, it's like, well, then pick up Marino, pick up Carr, pick up Elway, pick up
Drunken Miller.
Yeah, Jim Drunkenmiller. Go pick him up. But I mean, there's if these guys want to cross over, and I really don't care if they do or not, because that helps us still. Again, we're picking up what we can. It just doesn't make sense where something that's a base card is going for an astronomical amount, and something that's an amazing technological production
Advancement. Yep.
it's going for like a tenth of that price, if that.
Yeah, but even on the flip side, though, Flair Metal was innovative in the base card design. So for something, in even EX was innovative. SPX early on, 90. Well, did SPX start in 95 or did it start in 96? I think it started in 95. Don't hold me to that. But you had like 96, 97, I know specifically, certain, they were all die cut. You had the hologram, and then they had varying degrees of, you had your gold parallels and you had other inserts and things. Those were innovative when it comes to base card design.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to take away from those innovations, so to speak, because I could see why a Jordan 97 Flair Metal base card would sell for $300 and $400. I know that seems astronomical for a base card, but it is the reality. But at the same time, those were also very condition sensitive. Those cards in those sets that I alluded to, they were very condition sensitive. And because it was not that it was new technology, but it was the fact that new set design from a base perspective, for whatever reason they were trying to lure in younger collectors or try and pull in I remember Flair Metal and their one of their inserts being related to DC Comics or Marvel or whatever. Yeah, whether they were trying to pull in that collector base. But at the same time, some of those type innovations and designs, for instance, I know this is crazy. I actually collected comic cards there for a while too. But Flair.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember what they were called, but they were Dufex inserts. And they were just freaking cool. So a lot of the technologies that we've seen in the pro sports realm transferred into other mediums and or vice versa. So when you start incorporating a lot of that new, what I'll call innovation from a base card design perspective, there is some collectability there. Not to mention, most people didn't give two craps about 1997 Flair Metal base cards because it was just a base card. Although it was cool, it was different, Dufexy, more artistic, I guess, in certain aspects, because it wasn't just a picture of a player on the football field catching a pass, throwing a ball, whatever. There was some sort of extra design aspect to it. There is some collectability. But when you look at stuff these days, it's like it's all boring. I don't know how else to put it. A lot of it's blah. There's no visual appeal.
It looks like somebody took like a Photoshop and they're just playing with the most rudimentary and basic designs, borders, and patterns, and that's how they come up with the cards. I mean, there's no no thought really in it. It's like, well, this looks decent the year before. Let's just do this and have a little. Yeah.
I mean, why? So that I know this is one of your favorite set designs, being artist proofs.
Yeah.
And I happen to have one of my TD boxes here. This I think it's 95 through 98 sitting here because there's a lot of people who still want the full Terrell Davis PC showcase. I know you do, and it's going to be based on year. But you look at something like this, and they're reusing a lot of this nowadays. But I mean, these aren't tough pulls. They're not. But at the same time, it's the, as you keep alluding to, it's the eye appeal, aesthetically pleasing to the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And that right now is, what a lot of stuff is lacking these days. And then I'll take it a step further. This is the one. This is the 101. I mean,
Yeah.
it
And
just
rip that off with like what some of their prism. I don't even know what they'd be like the ones that are supposedly numbered to 20, but they aren't numbered. Like whatever.
right. Oh, like the sparkle prism or
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
So it's like, again, everything repeats itself. It's just how well is it being done, and it's not being done very well. I mean, just imagine like they could come up with the concept. I hope I get the money out of it. Imagine like a Panini Prism basketball that you don't have to play, like the top did it like 1 year, clear one. Upper deck the clear pack or whatever it be. Imagine Panini Prism does that. Somehow intertwines acetate. Then you start thinking, okay, maybe they do a little bit, but it probably won't be. It's about money. That's the only objective from our vantage point. I know mine for sure that they're just going to keep pumping until people pump the brakes and buy.
Well, and the creative juices, the creative ingenuity is lacking because I'm not saying that I have these great ideas as it pertains to anything insert related or anything along those lines, but at the same time, try and look past what we've had before and come up with something new. I can appreciate a lot of the rehashing of a lot of these 90s inserts, not by name, but maybe somewhat by design or technology based. But come on. This history repeating itself is, and for those of us who have been around long enough, I'm going to say it, I see through the shit. And I have no interest. I have no interest in any of this because they're throwing different names on it. But when you look at it, it's like, that's just like an atomic refractor. As I alluded to earlier, the cracked ice thing. That's an atomic refractor. I can look at, Skybox Premium because we were talking about that earlier. The Primetime Rookies. Mm-hmm. Same atomic refractor type card design. It's not cracked ice. Mm-hmm. Quit giving these things new names because you're trying to, bring in new collectors, whatever you're trying to do. It's very agitating as a player collector because especially for somebody who, all his cards are in the mid 90s. Now I wish he came into the league a few years earlier because, I love the whole Upper Deck Pro Bowl inserts back in the day. I would have loved to have had a Terrell Davis Pro Bowl insert. They don't have one because, of course, he didn't make the Pro Bowl any of the years in which they produced it. Some of those that are just, I don't want to call them iconic, but, it was innovative at the time. And when you have multiple card manufacturers who kind of create that, you have that healthy competition, it gets those creative juices going to where that's when you start, okay, what's next? What can we do different? What can we improve upon this? Because there's ways in which you can look at historical sales from an eBay perspective, from a secondary market perspective. Let's be realistic. eBay is pretty much a lot of the gauge that we use as collectors as it pertains to street value.
Yeah.
Book value is kind of like a base point of, okay, yeah, but at the same time, and I know you alluded to it in one of your videos, that something's got to give from a Beckett pricing perspective. For instance, my Terrell Davis precious metals, I'm not going to tell anybody how much I paid for it. Dave knows. But I paid more, 2 times more, actually it was 2.5 times more, than what current book value is of that card on Beckett. And you can't tell me that there's not individuals out there who have some sort of programming knowledge to where they can, since most things are digital these days as it pertains to Beckett, I'm not going to buy a printed Beckett anymore. If I want to purchase online pricing, I'll do that. But you can't tell me that there's not some sort of API integration, something that can pull data from eBay over an X period of time to update your current book value of cards, because you still have individuals out there that use Beckett as a guide. Hey, Beckett value is, $80. I want $80 worth of trade. Well, bullshit, dude. The card's selling for $5 on eBay. I ain't giving you anywhere close to that. Mm-hmm. But then you also had the adverse of that, of card books for $100, but it's selling for, 200 and something. Mm-hmm. There is no happy medium when it comes to that. And I know that the over book value, I don't want to call it rare. It's starting to be more consistent on certain things. But, if you look at basketball, for instance, that Beckett is way behind the 8 ball as it pertains to pricing. Mm-hmm. Jordan inserts, for instance, or even, let's say, more recent, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. They probably haven't really updated his 96, 97 rookie cards to reflect what the current market is, because it's book value and you use this as a basis. Well, I'm sorry. His Topps rookie card is selling for over $300. Mm-hmm. And I can, now don't hold me to this, and for anybody who actually has basketball Beckett pricing would probably call me out on this, but I'm almost willing to bet Beckett does not list it for anywhere close to that. No. Just saying. Which is a detriment. If it's supposed to be the price guide, which should be a rough basis of what it sells on the street or what it's valued at on the street, they need to change that philosophy. They need to be looking at it, what is this? What is it actually worth? What is it selling for? That dictates high and low book value. Yeah. Not what they originally thought it would be.
No, that stuff, like I told you with Johnson, he's been low. And again, I know he can have an all-star MVP Hall of Fame career, but there's a lot of stuff of that. The authentic stuff that's just absolutely mind-numbing, where his prices have dropped. Some of these other guys that were like big name defectors, Ely Solar came over and signed with the Mets. This stuff's still like $30-$40. He catch a handful of innings in the majors, and he got at least with a few All-Star games. So I mean, if he's 15, all that stuff. They've dropped the ball. I don't ever think it's going to change, just because I don't think enough people use the physical market or the physical copy of back.
James.
That used to be true. That
Yes.
used to be true. But they got away from big pulls. They got away from a term I don't like, the super collector. It's subjective, and that's one
Yep.
term. We'll get into that the next episode. That's one thing. I was actually in Beckett Pool one time, but
Were you? I
I'll-
thought about submitting at one point in time, but it was like, it's like you said, it's subjective depending on who actually composed those articles from a super collection perspective. What to them ultimately dictates the super collector.
Yeah.
For you super collect actually. So you super collect one person. Okay, I'm just going to throw this out there. You truly super collect one person. You collect others exclusively, but I wouldn't consider it a super collection. I wouldn't consider it a super collector. Now, as of late, with some of the steals that you've been getting on Bledsoe and some of those type situations, Brodeur, that type of stuff, you're bordering on, having multiple super collections. Take that for what it's worth. But then you have somebody like me who strictly focuses on one player. And having, is it percentage of cards owned that they identify as a super collector, or is it the number of, different cards? Are you looking at it from an autograph perspective? Are you looking at it from a base? Like you said, it's the whole subjective thing. I mean, I have over 2,077 unique Terrell Davis cards. He's got over, I think he's sitting at 3,500 now with all the new releases and stuff along those lines. But, that's nothing to shake a stick at for somebody, who was only in the league for, 7 seasons. That's still a pretty substantial number of cards. But when you look at like Josh Johnson, I'm sure he probably has close to 4,000, my guess, because of when he came out.
That's one thing I've never done is looked. I think I've probably got close. It's over 250 one-on-ones, over 1,000 autos, but again, multiples. It's like
But still, it's the fact that, that's overwhelming numbers that you're throwing out. And, I've got 33 or 34 one-of-ones. And it's what dictates a super collector to one person is not the same as others. And that's one of the main reasons why I never bothered to submit into Beckett, because at the time in which that was a thing, I was nowhere where I am like today, for instance. And in no way, shape, form, or fashion, I know that there's at least still 2 other people out there outside of myself. They're not on YouTube, anything along those lines, that probably have a more in-depth collection than I do from a base insert parallel perspective. But on the flip side, from an autograph standpoint, there for a while, I think I had that market cornered, because anything and everything that was coming up, it was like,
buy now.
yes. Because at the time, there was the big push for the Hall of Fame. There was always the possibility during those years. And, I could still get stuff cheap. The only time that it was excessive was anything numbered to 2 or less. So, not that, I can imagine, James. But, at the same time, during that time span, when I was heavy in the YouTube community and doing a lot of videos, that was my focus. It was all about the autos, the patches, the patch autos, the 101 parallels, and the 101 autos. And, when we chatted last in great detail via or via text messages, it was like, that those were the years that I regret my focus.
Mm-hmm.
I had a goal in mind because I didn't realize I had as many as what I did by any stretch of the imagination. But 200 autos to somebody who has 1,000 of their player
Mm-hmm.
may seem small, but if you look at the overall population of the number of autos that he has, that's substantial. Because I think he's sitting at a little over 300 and something. So, 66%. Now, I haven't done a calculation recently to see, if something's drastically changed. But to have, over 60% of autographs produced up to a certain year, and I'll throw that caveat in there too, up to a certain year, and focusing strictly on anything serial number 5 and above.
Mm-hmm.
I alluded in multiple times in my videos, I considered something obtainable that was serial numbered 5 and above, because anything lower than that, you didn't know if it was ever going to get pulled.
No.
You just didn't know. And even if it got pulled, there was no guarantee that it would end up on eBay. So in all my calculations over the years, actually, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. I like this. Let me actually pull this up. And you'll have to tell me if you can see this. And this is the same file I sent to you, Dave, some time ago when I was trying to negotiate that collection purchase. Let's see if this works. So tell me if you can see this. Should be an Excel spreadsheet.
No, I still see you.
Interesting. Let's see. Huh. It's showing that I'm sharing, but I'm guessing. Oh, here, let me do. Oh, it's down here at the bottom. Because on my screen, I see me, and then I see my share screen. All right, we're going to have to play with this at some point. But we'll have to do this next time. We'll have to play with it beforehand. But I was going to show my Excel file that I have for TD, and how I kind of track my stuff, color coding and things along those lines. I know JT, like Triple Crown, has a YouTube video out there. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm thinking it's something similar of a way to track your collection, because at some point, I hate to say this, as much as what I think I remember what I have, it's when you're talking over 2,000, cards, unique cards, even from an autograph perspective, even something as small as, having 200 unique autographs. There's times in which I'll put stuff on my watch list and it's like, no, I haven't bought any autographs. I haven't focused on it, but I still look at them just to kind of get, a feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go look through my spreadsheet. I'm like, why the hell did I put this on my watch list? I already got this thing. Good night, Aaron. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, we're over 2.5 hours. This will be our last thing for the night, and then we'll jump off and try to do it next week, Tuesday, too. I don't know. During the week on a Wednesday and Saturday before the podcast, I like to watch Sports Cards Live. It's more of a hockey-centric one. But I know Tuesday doesn't seem to be a big day, so that seems to fit in line for both of us, at least right now. I want to ask you, this was the last question. and I know you're gonna throw some shade my way, but your biggest steal and then the biggest miss you had that you just can't let go of, because I told the Collins story. I know I'll have more, but I mean there's stuff you just don't forget.
Well, and like I said, I can't think of the year, but the being able to purchase the PMG red and green as a lot, probably damn near close to 10 years ago, for a couple $100. That still haunts me to this day, especially knowing that a BGS 8.5 is listed on eBay right now, and it's like $1,800 or some god awful amount of money. So that still resonates with me. There's been a few other ones, from an autograph perspective that, it's like either I forgot or outbid, whatever. I always considered myself, when it came to low numbered Terrell Davis stuff, I was the guy to come to, because typically I won a lot of them. My biggest steal that really ended up not being a steal because, and this is recent, like I said, I'm old and sometimes my memory isn't the best. So I'll give you two, and one of them really isn't a steal, but it has to do with the card I texted you on and said, hey, I finally picked up another one, not on my iconic list.
Yeah.
So I'm going to consider it a steal because the first time I tried to win one, I lost, and it was a lot of money. And the one I picked up recently, it's like almost $30 cheaper. So, and it's a big card to me. And when I get it, and I make a video, you'll see what I'm talking about. So you'll be able to appreciate that one. The other one is it 90? Shit. Is it 99 Donruss Elite? Status? No, status. What's the one? Well, so there's, and I always get these confused. There's status.
30.
Do what?
Status would be to 30.
Okay, it was the status. And this is the one I sent you a text on. This was like the steal of the century for me. That elite status of TD number to 30 sold for under $5 and I won it. Under $5. Steal and a half. And the freaking seller ended up shipping the card to the wrong person and he never got it back. So it was the steal of the century that never happened.
That's a tough pill to swallow, because again, was that 99 or 2000?
I think it was 99. I could probably go pull and double check on eBay, but it's 99, I think.
Both that 99 and 2000 are just so nice, that foil. Mine steal would probably be, I was able to trade away that, I've said this before too, all my Troy Edwards stuff back in, I think, 99. It would have been 99, early 2000. I had collected him. He's a Steelers wide receiver, first round pick from Louisiana Tech. Kerry Collins at the time was a train wreck. He went to Carolina, got drunk, went to New Orleans, had him for a little time. Then he went to the Giants. So people are thinking he was going to be done. I was able to trade probably about $800 book value, Troy Edwards, to this guy for about $1,500 worth of like a great Kerry Collins collection. That's how I was able to get that Collins stuff, because again, 95, 6, and 7, he was white hot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
At the time, it was like, that's the only way I'm going to be able to get that. So I didn't want to send it away, but at the same time, I'm like, well, you know what? I've got to, because the Troy Edwards stuff, he hadn't really done anything for Pittsburgh. I like Kerry Collins, so I'd rather do that.
Right.
Miss besides the Collins.
I would disagree with that one, by the way, and I'll tell you why here in a second. As your biggest steal.
I'm gonna change spots here. I'm running low on battery. But
Yeah, don't have your phone die on you.
I believe you're like Bob Lewis the other day, sitting in a pinch. Biggest miss, biggest regret.
Call it your biggest miss. Regrets are so hard.
Besides the Collins PMG, there's a North Cut. I think it was a Crown Royale, and it says 101 in the back. I don't think it was a 101, but it was the rookie royalty. It was a regular, just a 1 per pack insert. This one was like the Crown die cut. I want to say it was 25. They say 101. I don't know. And it only went for like $25, and that's the only one I've ever seen. To the date. I mean, this was like 2005, 2006. So, I mean, this is, and again, I search Northcutt quite often. That's one of my favorite collections just because I was always known as the Northcutt guy before.
You were.
And then early years of YouTube. So, I mean, again, I've got other regrets or misses. I've got other steals. I've got like but it's not insert stuff. So Omar Vizquel printing plate I bought for $4 and sold for $1,000.
Yeah, I've never been that lucky.
I pulled up the Pascal Joachim over here that I remember getting Facebook auction on how many years? Probably 2016. This one, which now it goes for like $1,500.
Sell it.
That's the plan. But that was like a $10 maybe purchase. All that stuff it is. I got some of that stuff that's nice. But I mean, those are few and far between for both of us. I mean, if I buy, it's like, okay, Toronto seems to put out good players. Why not throw a flyer of $10? I've done worse. So.
Well, see, and I'm not going to spoil any future videos from you because I don't want to do that. But your biggest steal is that trade that you just finalized. Guys, for those who are still here,
Brad will be jealous.
I'm not even talking about who's on the card. I'm talking about rarity. And by rarity, holy shit. Because when he sent this to me, he's like, I got a trade proposal. I want to run this by you. And I'm like, okay. So he sends it to me and sends me the pictures. And I'm like, is that what I freaking think it is? So I'm asking questions because a lot of people have no idea that these versions existed because it's 2 parallels.
Mm-hmm.
And holy shit. I mean, what Dave, now if this was 2011 in that time span, 2012, it may have been a little bit more difficult, but right now, oh yeah. As far as I'm concerned, right now it is the steal of 2020 for you, sir. And that even tops your cheap precious metal Bledsoe pickup and some of the other cheap pickups that you've had from the hockey. I'm like, damn. I mean, I would have done that freaking 10 times over.
I wanted to make sure because I think I sent that to Michael as well. And I'm like, I pretty much know what I'm going to do. I just want to verify, make sure you guys would be in the same boat. And because again, looking up the odds of just trying to pull a redemption.
The redemption. Just the redemption itself.
So the redemption is what, 1 in 28,800 packs.
Yeah, something ridiculous. Yeah,
absolutely obscene. And there's stuff out there, obviously, but again, to trade it for what I traded it for, stuff I don't care about, stuff I know exactly how much money I had into it.
I'm so looking forward to when you get that card, Dave. In that, the other one is cool. Don't get me wrong from a nostalgia perspective, but
that's basically a great bonus.
That one card, you got that for free, as far as I'm concerned. For those individuals out there that know anything about '90s inserts, and I'll just absolute. That's all I'm going to say. People most likely aren't going to go do a peek and go look or anything along those lines. But absolute.
I don't think everyone's running to eBay right now.
This is, it's nuts. And I regret not picking up one out of the same set, but that was one of those in which it wasn't listed for very long and somebody snagged it up. And for those, whether it be excess stimulus payments, whether it be investors, whatever, there has been some ridiculous prices on some of the older TD insert parallel stuff that people have paid just astronomical prices for. I'm sorry, I ain't doing it. I have my idea of where I want to be from a pricing point perspective, and I already know some of these cards are going to cost between $300, $600, $700. I'd acknowledge that, but some of these, it's just no.
Well, some of the stuff that's pumping up right now, like $150 to $200, it's like no, those are still realistically $775 to $150 at the top end.
Do you have your Beckett close by to you?
Yes.
Your football one? I'm just curious because the one in over 28,000 pack pull for the trade that you made. Look up 95 SP and see what the pull ratio was for the Merino commemorative card from 95 SP. Because I'm going to end on that story. And the only reason why I'm going to end on that story is because of your last video in referring to the Bledsoe 93 SP.
One in 383.
One in what?
383.
The Merino commemorative?
Yeah.
So 1995, SP was the big thing. My family was out in San Angelo, Texas. Not for good reasons. My second cousin was not doing very well. She's great now, but at the time, bad situation. The hotel motel that we were staying at actually was having a card show the weekend that we were there. 95 SP was the big deal. And people were doing pack wars with 95 SP. I mean, by the pack. And I think at the time they were $4 or $5 a pack, which, isn't cheap by any stretch of the imagination. Then it wasn't cheap. Now that's cheap. Then that really wasn't cheap. But it had the all-pro die-cut silver and gold, and then it had the Hollowview, regular Hollowview, and the Hollowview die-cuts. And, of course, that was the big push for those cards. And what the driver was from a pack war perspective. So my grandmother had given me some money or whatever, and I think I bought 5 or 6 packs maybe. And the dealer that I bought it from had pulled the Montana. So it was the Merino and the Montana commemorative cards. And, all you had on the back of the pack was the odds. Mm-hmm. So you didn't know specifically what the value was going to be because 1 in 383 was really high odds, even in 95. Mm-hmm. So I opened the packs and I pulled a Merino. And everybody who had been busting packs through pack wars, a lot of the dealers were like just astonished. They were, holy cow, that's fantastic, blah, blah, blah. What do you want to sell it for? I'm like, this was my highest ratio pack pulled card I'd ever personally pulled.
Mm-hmm.
So it had a special kind of place initially. So the guy I bought the packs from ended up giving me a display, screw down case and everything. And I sat on it for a day. One day. So I went back Sunday. Sunday is usually when the wheeling and dealing comes. People wanting to get rid of stuff. The dealer remembered me, and I had it with me. Had it in my back pocket. And he's like, dude, I really want that card. I've got the Merino. I really want that card. I want to be able to complete the set for both of them. I'm like, okay, well, what's it worth to you? Mind you, I'm not a big trader, guys. I've never been able to formulate good trades. It's just not been in my DNA, I guess. But I was like, what's it worth to you? And he's like, well, take a look around in the cases, see, what you like and things along those lines, and let's see if we can work out something. Well, one of my all-time most wanted cards, this goes back to, us trying to circle back to this. I had a mission back in 93 because I love Drew Bledsoe. Go figure. To have every base rookie and insert rookie of Drew Bledsoe from 93. Well, one of the big cards I was missing was the 93 SP. Could never buy the packs, anything along that. So that was always a one of mine. And I was like, well, I want the 93 SP. That's one thing that has to be included in the trade. And at that time, it was still high from a book value perspective because, he was crushing attempt records and everything else as it pertained to the quarterback. He's actually, as far as I'm concerned, is the reason why quarterbacks the way they are now. He was the first.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm liking where this is going. And, we kept talking. And he's like, what else? And I was like, well, I'll be honest. I'd like to be able to get some more packs of 95 SP. He's like, all right, I'll make you a deal. He goes, the Merino for the 93 SP, $20 cash, and 10 packs of 95 SP. I'm like, done. That Merino card books for like $10 now. Now, I know book value doesn't mean anything, but at the same time, hot new product, everybody was busting it. There was only one dealer there that had it. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I ended up getting what I considered an iconic card from 93 because, that was the first year SP came out was 93. Rookies were condition sensitive because they were foil. And when I always wanted. And at the end of the day, that Merino card, although it had some sentimental value, that Bledsoe card meant more to me in the fact that I walked out of there like a bandit. So, yep, there it is.
You thought I was going to pull something else out.
Oh, that's what I was thinking you were going to go get was the Pinnacle rookie and rub it in my face.
No, I remember that. This SP was, at the time, it was the Jeter of what the Jeter is now.
Yep. And graded copies, PSA 10, BGS 9.5 were like $1,000 from a value perspective. You know, when Beckett actually included graded values in the Beckett, at the very back, they had specific cards that they, you know, included in their Beckett price guide. I mean, it was like eight to $1,000 or something. And part of that is because of the condition sensitivity, of course.
You're probably, every time you pick one up that looks good, that's an 8 probably every time. At the top. I mean, you have to have an amazing copy to have even a 9. There's always white around there, dripping either on the back or in the front. But it's now a card that's readily available for under $5 plus shipping. But that's the thing; it is a iconic card that you can have in your collection for whatever fast food place. That used to be so much. I mean, Bettis has surpassed it now, but again,
absolutely,
that's shocking. One of my favorite football sets of all time.
I have a set.
So do I.
I have a set.
That's one of the rare ones. I think I got off one of those Facebook groups. I think I paid like $20.
I built mine. I hand collated mine. And but you know, and that's back when I enjoyed that, because that was on top of the whole pack opening type scenario. What can you pull? Because 93 SP, outside of the all pros, I think, which were they won a box, 1.5 boxes. You know, they were cool because they were die cut, but that was the only insert, and you didn't really give a shit about the insert at that point in time. It was all about the rookie class, those foil rookies. And I mean, it's an iconic set. You know, and you know, I know we've been using that term quite a bit throughout the whole conversation, but there are certain things, not just from an insert perspective. Oh, I agree. They're still amazing. There is more than just in the 90s, not just from an insert perspective, but even a set perspective. And I know we've been trying to focus more on the insert and player collecting and super collecting and things along those lines. But I think at the same time, you have to show some sort of love to those certain
base sets. Even the regular card, not the foil rookie. The regular cards are these different scrubby cards. These are beautiful cards.
Yeah. Oh, the set photography is fantastic.
And that's one thing Upper Deck always seemed to do well with their is that and Stadium Club.
I was going to say Stadium Club was the next one on my list as far as visual photography.
Those are the two that I remember the most being photogenically or photographically
appealing,
because everything was so clean, so clear, and then it was different. You didn't have the same mundane images that you have in like a top. Fleer always was so busy. The design just got in the way of everything. Some of the inserts were great, but the base sets were always. I think the '93 silver. The grayish border.
Yep.
That was probably my favorite design because it wasn't so
busy.
Yeah,
they were busy. Yeah, I would agree. OJ McDuffie.
I suppose we're at 3 hours, which is what we probably need.
We could. It's one of those in which, you know, we didn't know how long we could go, and you know, we were kind of thinking it was probably going to be about an hour, but you know, at the same time, we got a lot of interaction from those who joined. Not that we had a huge audience, but you know, it was great to have the people that we did.
Even when you get people like right now it shows 8 people are watching. It's been up to I think 13, but again, people are commenting and interacting, and that's what helps us too, where we can have like a template or something that we want to go off of, but depending on where people comment or if they got questions or
Yep.
any of that we can go in a completely different direction and we're not constrained by time. So again, my videos have always been painfully long. You've had some long videos too.
A lot of mine have too.
I know a lot of people like, well, I just want to go an hour and a half. I don't. We've talked on the phone for 5.5, 6 hours.
We have.
I mean, it's it's like you might as well bump up more of those lengthy videos. Who won, Brad?
Well, no, I had a lot of fun. I didn't know what to expect coming into this, and yellow borders, ugly. That was ugly.
I didn't mind. The thing I liked though, on back, I think you had a different picture.
You did.
Information. That's what is missing from a lot of cards. I like lots of information on a card if you can fit it. If you've got like a Goose Gossage career, which
that's like this long.
So one of those guys, it's like, okay, you can't fit anything. You can barely fit the copyright on the bottom. But I mean, if you got a rookie or somebody, list some fun stuff about him. You don't need to list, oh, he batted 283 in away games and I don't care. List that he likes Creole food or something. I don't care. It's something different that you're not going to find everywhere. But that's clear. If they would have, I don't know.
Flair had a lot of chances. They didn't get innovative. They stuck too safe. When Flair was their safe brand, Skybox was like their innovative side.
They tried it with Flair, tried to be super premium.
Yeah, and Flair had some good runs.
The Legacy collection was another super, like an iconic type insert when you think across the board.
But Flair was like Topps. If you want to call it flagship, as like the base type thing. Flair was very basic. And, the only thing that I can say from Flair perspective is some of their photography was pretty, I don't want to say it was great, but, there were certain
interesting images.
Yeah, that's kind of the word I was looking for. But they weren't innovative, so to speak. They changed their design year over year, which every brand does, and that's what you expect. But they used Skybox and Flair as their, I don't even want to say their higher end. Flair could be considered their high end, as it kind of progressed through the years later into the early 2000s. But they use those two brands as their prime sets for innovative inserts and things along those lines. Platinum Portraits, for instance, that's a Skybox premium product. Cool card. I wouldn't call it iconic, but still cool freaking cards.
Yeah, that's 97. Which I thought the thing about that, I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool and perfect. And I'm sort of like, for a case hit.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to get a case hit, but at the same time, like, I can see why these aren't really super
highly sought after.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Now basketball, on the other hand, they are.
They hit home run after home run. What was it? Like the Z team, I don't know, the like Z Force or whatever that was, the circa of the basketball, which is something different. Thunder, where they had a lot of stuff in there, like the Rave, the Super Rave. Those are very sought after cards. I think Jambalaya was that Skybox, or was that
was EX.
So I mean,
Flair EX.
So again, they had some stuff, but again, they never, I don't know, they weren't consistent. That was the thing where it just seemed they always jumped around where you had the EX, you had the jambalaya, but you never had it for football.
Yep.
You had those cool EX 1998, the like Pro Bowl tiki die cuts.
Oh yeah,
that
that Destination Honolulu.
But again, you just never had a balance, that clear brilliance. I wish they would have had more years of that. Those 24 quarters.
Yeah, that was a beautiful product. Beautiful. And
But
the
again,
level of parallels.
And again, I know on that Essential Credentials podcast they had, I don't know her last name, it's Jean, but she and I think her husband own Clear, and they've had her on there. So that's an episode. I'll cross that over to go watch that for anybody out there that watches this now or later, and then she's got some answers to some of that stuff too. But I know like some of the layering of those cards, you had like 6 different layers of material, and like that's awesome. But why didn't you constantly do it? I mean, you don't need to do it for every set. Have a case insert that's amazing, but have consistency and continuity, and then you wouldn't be out of business mid 2000s. Upper Deck would be buying things.
Right.
So
well,
yeah,
that's it's always that give and take. Some people, they took chances, they do certain things, and sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't. But at least from a football perspective, and this is where I know you and I can be 100% in agreement. The NFL made a mistake in signing the exclusive with one manufacturer, and how that came to fruition, the world may never know.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a huge detriment to the collector base. And I'm strictly talking football. No offense, guys. I don't give a crap about any of the other sports. I don't care. I don't. I will watch them. I will support my local teams. I'm a sports fan, but as it pertains to collecting, I don't care about the rest. I don't. I did in my early years, but not anymore. But it was a huge detriment, and I hate to say this because, Panini is actually Donruss Leaf Playoff. It is. It's just under a different name because it was purchased as such. But damn, it was a huge detriment to this hobby. And it needs to hurry up and end to where we can start getting some new flavor, because I'll say it, it's garbage. A lot of the stuff that's coming out is garbage, and it's a redo of past stuff. And for those who are new to the hobby, it's great. But for those of us that have been around for as long as what a lot of us have, that are in this room right now, listening to us ramble about this stuff, they're not impressed.
No.
Because
it's tiresome. I don't know when the contracts run out. I don't know if that's even a possibility now. Because I'm guessing the sports want to have just one company under the canopy, under the umbrella, just so they can go to one person or one group or one company instead of like 10.
They signed what, a 5-year deal? Mm-hmm. Wasn't it a 5-year deal, I thought?
Yep, it could be. I'd have to. Well, maybe that'll be next week. We'll check in on that. But yeah,
I thought it was like a 5-year exclusive.
Just in dealing with the companies and answering or asking questions of 3 companies, I think that you can ask one person at one company. That makes it a lot easier for the NFL. But again, that doesn't make it any better for us collectors at all. That just waters down the market with unimaginative designs and generic relics that cheapening a price that at one point in time was absolutely amazing, putting out products that are absolutely overpriced and
Garbage.
nobody cares. Nobody should
I
care.
and I hate to use. I honestly I hate to use that, but if I'm going to spend my hard-earned money on boxes or packs,
Mhm.
for instance, not that I do that much anymore, because it's nostalgia. I love it. I've always enjoyed it. I love busting boxes. I love busting cases. I mean, there's nothing better than being a collector and opening boxes and packs. I mean, that there's nothing better. You may disagree because you probably have something specific, but at the same time,
Oh,
it's
I love busting wax every so often. I mean, it just brings you back to when you were a kid.
absolutely, and that's what I ultimately always go back to is when I was a kid and my grandmother buying me those packs from Albertsons when she went to the grocery store, and you know buying a crap ton of 93 Flair Ultra and me pulling the all rookie team Drew Bledsoe from a retail pack. I thought I had pulled free. I had won the lottery. Uh, Even in '93, mind you, I was in high school at that time, but it was like, oh, you know, because retail odds were always higher typically, regardless if it was a retail only or a retail hobby type deal. Sometimes the odds were different. I think at that point in time, the odds were different, regardless of
Yeah.
where you bought it in
And I
retail or hobby.
always had that.
Right. But where was I going with this?
Busting packs, busting wax, just the thrill of
Oh, if I was going to spend money on trying to relive my younger years, in reminiscing, anything, I'll go as high as 2007. I'd go 93 to 2007. I would rather pay higher prices for a box or packs because of a good rookie class than what I would pay for this shit that's being pumped out now. I would do it all day long.
Yeah.
Because, outside of, I'll go back to Topps Chrome. I miss Topps so much from a football perspective. Even when they took it to the extreme and rookie autographs and rookie patch autographs and rookie patch refractor autographs and, all of the ads from the refractor perspective, the gold, the sepia, all the added extra crap that they did, I still miss Topps Chrome football. I will never change that thought ever until somehow Panini, which I know is not going to happen, comes out with something as good. And I say as good because Prism is not as good as Topps Chrome.
No.
Everybody on here can probably yell and scream at me and probably disagree with me, but Topps Chrome is what started the whole Panini Prism because they can't use Chrome and they can't use Refractor because it is Topps. And as far as I'm concerned, even their level of technology from a prism perspective, which would be ultimately the refractor, it's not anywhere close.
No.
Not anywhere close. From a rainbow perspective. You look at old, and I hate to say this, Chrome got a little, I won't say shitty later on, but their early refractors compared to, later refractors, there's a big difference. Big difference.
Well, yeah, you look at the 15, their last year, that was one of the worst borders for cards, especially when you're integrating colored schemed refractors. I know Michael, this film not yet rated, showed It's like at
Is
one point he
Rainbow.
had Randall Cobb, and then he had the clay. And I mean, you can't see it on that. It doesn't pop like it should because, again, like a FLIR issue, it's just so busy that border's so dark, and then you have the picture. You don't have any real light in the photos to catch that super fractal, the champagne swirls.
Yep.
I mean, even that Panini jacked those, the champagne swirls, call it whatever.
Gold vinyl.
Yeah, it's just,
Is that what it is? I think.
yeah. I mean, again, it's like I said, it's wrestling where they're never gonna say, "Oh, we took that from Topps Chrome, we just copied it." No, they're gonna say, "Well, no, this is a gold vinyl. No, it's a super fractor design."
Absolutely. It's the same scenario. But, if you think about it as a card manufacturer, that stuff is copyrighted.
Mm-hmm.
Not copyrighted. It's trademarked.
Yep.
So therefore, they can't use the terminology. They can try and copy it or recreate it,
Mm-hmm.
but, they can't because then they'd have to deal with, Topps coming to the table and saying, no, so sorry.
Yeah.
So I like to see some of the stuff coming back. But what I find interesting, though, is, and this goes back to way early on in this conversation, Pacific and their innovation and their laser die cuts and everything along those lines. And they even did they call them laser inscriptions, or did they actually call them laser die cuts, to where, you look at a card and you see the various cuts into the card and everything else.
I think laser die cuts or laser etching, something like that. I mean, where it was just.
It could have been the etching. But why hadn't anybody tried to bring that back?
I don't know.
Whether it be Topps from a baseball perspective, Panini from a football perspective, why haven't they bothered at looking at some of that? Because that was way ahead of its time, and that was big selling points for Pacific. And I honestly did not think that Pacific would have gone out the way that they did.
When they had their odds, it was like 1 in 25, 1 in 49, 1 in 181, 361.
They had funky odds.
But I think it was everything, so they never were on the hook for something being guaranteed
per box.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. Yep. It was always you had the chance to get it, but we're not guaranteeing you the chance to get it.
The only thing that they guaranteed was their box toppers,
mm-hmm.
And one or two of the whether it be the silver,
platinum blue, but I mean even
that
the
was silver, the platinum, the platinum blue hollow foil. So it was just variation
mm-hmm.
perspective that they were on the hook for per box. But from an insert perspective, what was interesting is, I think, was it 96 Pacific Revolution? Came in a big freaking black box. Weird packaging. Weird. But so, and Silks was 1 in 37, but there was only 20 packs per box or something. So Silks was 1 in 37. Firestone on football was 1 in 25, like you were alluding to, the funky ratios. But what's interesting is, although those ratios were there, so they weren't quote unquote on the hook, you still pulled those lower pack ratio cards
mm-hmm.
per box. But it was still, like you said, there's a reason why they did it, because card companies these days guarantee things, and if you have guarantees, that leads to customer issues if in fact what it says isn't produced, so on and so forth. So that kind of got them out of the customer service fiasco possibilities of, well, I was supposed to get one of these and I didn't get one.
Lawsuit or whoever knows what people would have done. But I think the only thing that really Panini's done with that, they jacked the Crown Royale type of thing, and then instead of Kramer's Choice, they said it was Panini Choice with like the triangle inserts. I've got a few of those like autographed of basketball players.
I was reading Uncle Vinny's comment there. But that crosses all sports from a Pacific perspective.
I mean, you've got like Pacific would have the gold, silver. Then you'd have red, bronze would be in there. I think an emerald green once in a while. The ice blue or revolution blue or platinum blue, whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever terminology you want to throw out there.
Then premiere date, and then all this. I mean, I love stuff. You still can get that stuff dirt cheap if you find it right. I mean, you can pick up star players. You don't have to pick up Blade, Johnny Scott, or people of that ilk. I mean, you can pick up star players, pennies on the dollar, comparatively speaking, than all the other sports. I mean, hockey, you can get that stuff cheap as well. It just depends on how broad your collection and how deep you want to go into the pool.
Well, that's no different than this. So this is out of, I believe, 98 Paramount. Kings of the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, is the parallel set, but this is the proof. And
is that the 120?
It is the number to 20. You can't see it, but that's where the numbering is. I actually had to go to the Beckett because I'm like, with all the backdoor stuff on certain sets and stuff along those lines, it's like, what the fuck is this? Is this legit? So, there are still things out there because I'd never seen one before. And the guy had two of them. And, the minimum starting bid was, I think, $15, but $10, $15, something like that. And I'm like, I've never seen this before. And that's one thing that, I enjoy, even also from a player collector perspective is every once in a while you'll see things and it's like, is this legit? Or I've never seen this before for whatever reason. It's, coming out of the woodwork or whatnot. And that happened to be one of them because I'm like, numbered to 20 from the Pacific years, early Pacific years. I still consider that early Pacific years. To number to 20, that doesn't sound right. This isn't legit. This isn't a real card. This is like a backdoor type, thing. Like with all the collectors, like all the printing or the printing plates from Pacific.
Yeah.
You've got front and back of every Pacific product there is, including the inserts. But Beckett doesn't acknowledge those as even being in existence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, is this a backdoor thing? Is this kind of like a printing plate type scenario? And I was pleasantly surprised when I ended up going and looking it up. It was like a $60 card. I'm like, yeah, I think I'll put in my bid for $15.
That's the thing. I 2017, 18. I'm sure the guy still has copies on eBay.
I bought mine.
I was gonna say I showed the back of the hockey one and the other podcast I was on for like $10 or whatever it was. And again, the retail price was whatever, 30, 35. If you don't care about stuff that's new, because that market has always still fluctuated. It's just always ebbing and flowing. If you just want to have something that's odd, you get everything's listed. So you want a checklist of your insert, your favorite insert set or whatever. it's there. You don't just have Marino, Favre, and Elway listed, and you have like 7 or 8 cards that are not. You've got everybody listed. So if you're looking for like a Dana Stubblefield insert that you didn't know was out there, you'll find it listed there. And it's just a good thing to have. Pricing, I'm indifferent to it, but knowing the odds of something and then being like, okay, this is a magazine pack, but I'm probably not going to find as many as I would a regular retailer hobby full, just because those didn't seem to be readily available.
Well,
but again, pricing is just
it's trivial, and like I said, I know I alluded to that for the 98 Paramount proof I just showed, but at the same time, when you ended up showing them initially, and then you and I started chatting, and you provided me like the seller. I mean, I went and got the same 3 that you did because I did football, baseball, and basketball. It was $35.
Mm-hmm.
And, not that I've used them extensively, but, at the same time, I have multiple boxes of, older inserts and parallels and rookies from, the early 90s through, the early 2000s. It's more as a way to just dig more into the information aspect, pack pull ratios and, things along those lines, and just, like you always say, educate yourself.
Yeah.
It's much more than just looking at sold items on eBay. Who gives a crap? Because that stuff can fluctuate at any given time. Look at past football sales, as, for instance, you may have, and I'm not going to go into specifics by any stretch of the imagination, but you could have a guy that was a rookie in, let's say, 2005. Okay. So, yeah, that's Aaron Rodgers' rookie year, but I'm just throwing this out there. Was a backup, come in later on, 4 or 5 years down the road, have a freaking phenomenal 2 or 3 games, and the shit spikes through the roof because it's like everybody wants them because it's what's hot right then. And situations like that are more the norm these days with the whole ultra modern stuff these days because of what's hot right now. So it's interesting to be a collector in these interesting times, but at the same time, to a certain degree, I'm very thankful, at least now more than ever, that my focus is strictly those inserts and parallels that they're not the iconic ones, but they're still ones that I need for my collection. That's really been my focal point. I can get a lot of the 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20 base and a few parallels and a few inserts for, a couple bucks and be able to just, buy them in bulk at any time. But I don't care right now. It's strictly looking at 95 through really about 2000 is really where a lot of my focus has been. And it's hard for me just being a single player collector. A lot of the stuff that pops up, 99% of it I already have because I'm missing a lot of the, I won't call it the rare stuff, but the stuff you just don't see as frequently. Yeah. So,
well, that's the thing. Like you have the 98, like let's say Revolution, you can't find the Shadow series, like that. It's the 99, but it's not Yeah, I'm buying a little basketball. You're going to be no. It's
Right.
just something that nobody's busting because just even at the time it would seem like there's a ton of it out there. So stuff like that, it's a Pacific product that people are yeah, Pacific sucks. It's not a big resale market for it. Yeah, you're going to see upper deck type stuff because well, the Manning sells well, or the Brandy Mott sells well at 10. It's not like a Paramount or Revolution lot. Manning's going $500 ESA 10.
So, Dave, I'm going to ask you this because you being a 90s guy, and I've shown this in the video, and anybody else who's still actually paying attention. So you can see what that says.
Mm-hmm.
It says wooden.
And I've looked for I've looked those up too, and
I never knew these existed. Never. And this is one of those in which I've shown in a video because it was like a buy it now type thing, and I'm like doing my research and everything else. And no, folks, that is not the card number of what's in the set. That is the serial number. That's the card number in the set. That's the serial number.
yeah, not everything was always printed on there by machines.
I was like, no, this is not. Oh, sorry. My kiddo's watching.
Too loud.
Yes.
I never turned
But I never knew it existed. And it was one of those in which I'm like, is this legit? Is this, am I reading into this as, is this actually like the card number of, 6 of 10, like there's 10 cards in the set. This is card number 6. And then I was, as I was reviewing it and everything along those lines, because this is a 10 card set, which is why I was confused. I'm like, that's pretty freaking cool. 97, a card numbered to 10. That's almost as rare as my 97 playoff zone gold that I got in a collection I purchased. Didn't even realize that was even a thing. Numbered to 5. 1997 serial number to 5 or 1997 serial number to 10. I mean, that's like pulling a 101. A legit 101, not that you pull a 101 in every box that you open, like in plates and patches or something along those lines. But, that's the stuff that still drives me from my player collection perspective, because there's a lot of stuff I still know that's out there that's extremely low numbered. 13 or numbered to 20, 13, 10 or less or anything along those lines. I know that they're still out there.
Yeah.
That I'm hoping at some point I get lucky enough to find. As long as it's not the Essential Credentials Future that's, numbered to 13 that sold for, like $900 or something.
Well, those are nice cards, but I just I think it's been built up too much as an iconic insert or allowed.
I mean, I think
I'd rather have the Legacy collection every time, just because I like that blue foil.
right. Well, and I mean, I'll pay between three and 4 for the 97, just because that was the start of the Essential Credential type movement. But when they started doing the now and the future with the varying serial number parallels, that's where the crap got, case in point, people take things to the extreme. Now I have a couple, both versions, and I think I have 99. And one of them's to 68 and the other one's to 21, I think. I think it's 99. But, you know, the last one that I saw that was from 98, and it was the future, it was number to 13. It was listed as a buy it now best offer, I think at $8.99, and he even listed it wrong. I think it said 99, but it was actually a 90 from 98. BGS 9. Not a terrible grade by any stretch of the imagination for something that old. Somebody like swooped in, and it was gone.
I think, to answer Brad's question here, I think if people don't know what they have, I'm finding more often than not, if they're not 100% sure of what they've got, they're pretty sure that it's something, if not, it's super valuable. It's got to be worth something because it just doesn't look like all the other stuff that they've got. When you see like a die cut and it's got like hollow foil or laser, like the Topps stars or Topps laser, like there's type of stuff. It's all that die cuts. Like, oh, that's a pretty cool card. Something. This isn't like all the stuff I'm seeing at Target or Walmart or whatever.
Yeah, this is different.
Something's different here. So you do see most people know what they've got. Like the Curtis Martin I showed earlier, that
The larger than life.
that guy didn't have a clue.
Well, and on top of that though too, Dave, there are some people who think they have something and they list it as if they have the variation, but yet they don't. Because when you ask them certain questions, they're like, huh? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because even, and it's more transparent in like 97, 98 insert parallels, that there's only a small change in the card that dictates whether or not it's the base insert or then the parallel insert. And there's a lot of those that even I've seen listed on eBay, and I'm kind of like, it's on my checklist that I don't have it. And then you do your research and you can't find any history on it. It's like, yeah, I'm not willing to take that risk.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's a couple dollar risk or whatever, you may as well take a shot. If it's something that they've got up to like $25, $30. I'm not Gary Vee. I'm not the charlatans, the influencers that have all that new money. I'm not taking those chances. The one I showed you, the Bledsoe Martin, and numbered to 10 out of the running mates. I was like, I got to
President's Reserve.
Yeah, President's Reserve. I'm just like, that's something I'm willing to take a chance on, because I knew Collective's Edge always did wonky stuff. I mean, there was no rhyme or to anything. So one might be numbered there to 10. The second series is printed on their machine stamped to 100. So again, you just that's why that packet is something nice to have, just to educate yourself, even if maybe everything isn't 100% factual. Maybe there's stuff you find and there's discrepancies, but at the same time, I'd rather have this stuff and have
It's a good resource. It's a great resource.
Yeah,
and it's one of those in which if individuals want to dive in to, if they're player collectors, they could be team collectors, whatever. But if somebody wants to dive in and really get a full appreciation of what it was like in the 90s, and then use eBay for pictures and everything along those lines to get an idea of what something looks visually, if you can find it, because there's some stuff that you may not be able to find because of the rarity, and they just don't pop up. But at the same time, it's there as a guide. It's there as a resource to give somebody the information to make certain decisions if they choose to purchase something, pass, whatever. Because in the 90s, although, that was the start of, the big insert push, I know, and even there's still a lot of things in which we have to re-educate ourselves on or re-investigate, because although those were prime years, and during that time, we may have known a lot, whether it be conversing in boards or your local card shop, if you had that type of relationship or things along those lines. At that point in time, you had information real time, so to speak, because of those interactions. But as times progress and as we get older and more senile, we have a tendency to forget a lot of that stuff. And, I've used it a multitude of times, not just from the Terrell Davis aspect, but even as I'm going through my insert and parallel boxes and stuff that span all sports, just to figure out some of the details behind some of those inserts and parallels. For all I know, I could be sitting on, a small gold mine, so to speak, but I have no interest in getting rid of some of that stuff because it is nostalgia. It's some of the stuff, that I grew up opening and cracking, or, back when I did my box openings there for a while when I was selling, the stuff for the card shop.
Mm-hmm.
I have 10 or 12 5,000 count boxes full of base cards. Now, it's not ultra modern stuff, but I'm sure that there is stuff in there because as a breaker, unless somebody told me they wanted certain base cards out of their box, they went into a 5,000 count box.
Yeah.
But, I don't do this for the quick buck. You don't do this for the quick buck. This is, like we always go to, this is a hobby. This is what we enjoy. But at the same time, this is long-term. This is long-term investments. And when you have opportunities that you did the other day, this is where that long-term investment mentality comes into play, because opportunities like you got to experience, and I can't wait for you to get them. Don't come up very often. And even the person knew roughly from a value perspective. And I'm willing to bet you he used that eBay listing that I sent you.
Yep.
As their point of reference, because I'm pretty sure that's been the only one that has been sold in quite some time. So that's what he was using his basis on. So
I saw that. I was like, I remember that, because again, I remember those, and that was one thing. I'm like, I know there was some sort of redemption there.
yep.
I don't know exactly what it was, because again, Playoff had a bunch of that stuff scattered all throughout. Those pennants were goofy. There was leather stuff that was goofy. There's just everything was goofy in Playoff in that year.
Oh yeah.
And that I'm like, okay, that afterward, I will do a deep dive. But I'm like, when I shot you and Michael that text, I'm like, what do you think of this deal? This is correct, Joey. Again, the thing though, a lot of people just come in, they want to make money. And that's obviously not what anybody that's watched here has done. I'm not going to speak for Steve, but at the same time, I don't think those are the people who really build anything with.
No.
There and flip. I mean, that's great, but again, you're not in this hobby. One of the reasons we're in it, a lot of you guys are down.
I'm not in this to make $1 million.
No.
And in order for you to make $1 million, you probably have to be worth a few million. And to be honest, as much as I enjoy collecting and everything along those lines, that's too much. That's too much of a risk. To me, it's almost worse than playing the stock market in certain instances because, excuse me, all it takes is one situation. You invest, let's say, $10,000 in Aaron Judge, for instance, and then he freaking blows out an ACL running around second base, and he's out for a season, and he doesn't come back to form. That you just lost 10 grand. I mean, he can still put up good numbers, but when you're out for an extended period, it's no different with football or basketball or hockey. It's the same scenario.
Yeah.
But when you have too much of a focus and you put too much into one thing that what I would consider who's still not proven. Being in the league for 2 and 3 years, Trout's the exception. I'll give Trout all the credit in the world. Trout's the exception. Hands down, he is the exception. But when you have somebody who's only been in the league for 2, 3, 4 years, and he's tearing it up and everything else, what happens when he has one bad season? What happens if, like I said, he blows out an ACL? Trout being the exception, you look at all these other guys, and even from a prospecting perspective, these guys have never stepped foot on a freaking baseball field, and their base cards are selling for hundreds of dollars. Huh? You haven't proven yourself. And just because you're a Yankee? Yeah. What? And some of those parallels selling for tens of thousands of dollars. You see that more in baseball from a prospecting perspective because a lot of the rookies in basketball, because it's a lottery, you just don't know. But there's less risk, at least in basketball, for instance, at least in my opinion, than what there is in baseball. You're going to spend hundreds of dollars on banking that maybe somebody's going to become something.
Yeah, if you're dropping thousands on basic Dominguez right now, you better
Why?
He is the next. I wouldn't even say Mantle because Mantle's stats, other than the home runs, they're good. But I mean, comparatively, if he's not the next Ted Williams, you're losing money at the price. It's not even feasible to think that these prices now are going to be sustainable. Because again, everybody just imagine. Yeah, you said ACL. What if Patrick Mahomes ACL, Lamar Jackson ACL? You're going to have people that are new money charlatans that have come in. They are going to dump so quickly and get out and go back to the horse races, go back to the casinos, go back to NFL betting. They're going to get out of the hobby immediately. They can't continuously make a dollar.
But on the flip side, you're banking on somebody from a prospect perspective that may not even hit the freaking major league ranks for years.
Mm-hmm.
Years. And you're hoping that somehow, shape, form, or fashion, even when he gets there, he's worth a damn. I'm sorry. Double A, triple A, it is nothing compared to the major leagues. And just because you put up astronomical numbers in Double A or Triple A does not mean you're going to amount to a ball of crap when you hit the majors.
And then you also have the chance of it being Giordano Ventura or the Oscar Tavares for St. Louis. They'll go off in a car crash and die. So now you're left with something that will never increase in value because you dumped so much into it. Now they had a choice. Because again, it's something you can't control. You can't control the players and what they do off the field. And now, more than ever, not even the 2020 year of uncertainty, but just social media, you have everybody's camera phone, big money contracts. You put millions of dollars in kids that are 18, 19 years old. You don't know what they're going to do, especially when you come from meager means.
Absolutely. Well, not to deter you, Ed, but I'd rather pay that kind of money on that. I'm just saying. But that's me.
Or
That's
pay,
me.
pay half that.
Shut up, Dave.
On that.
As I said, you ought to be arrested for stealing it for that price.
But I suppose we're going to end there. We're just shy of 4 hours.
Yep. I
Plan
have to go to
probably
work.
next week, same time, maybe a little earlier. Maybe goes long, who knows?
Yeah, Tuesday is good for me, for sure. You and I will have to find a way to play around with some of the share screen stuff. It may be one of those that you have to do it or something, but we'll have to play around with it.
Yeah,
So we can start sharing some things from time to time.
I agree. And hope you guys enjoyed it. And they'll watch this later as we have been in the room through the night. We thank you.
Absolutely.
Feedback and questions. The banter, love it. Helps us get through too. So we don't have to constantly play ping pong. We just integrate them with the audience.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Provide feedback. Dave and I have thick skin. You can always tell us we suck and we just need to go fly a kite. We want to be able to focus on some of the things that interest people though as well. We touched on a lot of things tonight, and we did show some cards. Hopefully, I can be a little bit more prepared on some of the other. And I know Dave, you'll probably want to do the same thing on some of the really rare stuff that between the two of us we have. From a football perspective, since we're trying to focus more on that from the podcast perspective. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the banter back and forth between the two of us, like I always do. The interactions with the folks who were here. This was the first go, and I think overall it went pretty well.
Yeah, and we want to do some more. Again, we'll sort of dabble on some of the other sports. We're going to do something football centric because there really isn't anything out there, at least that we both have looked for or has come across our paths that really concentrates on player collecting and the insert world of the 90s, early 2000s. And we will get off on other tangents. I mean, you go back in both of our video libraries, have very few videos that are under 15 minutes, most of them 20 plus. But we'll do what we can to keep everybody entertained, keep everybody informed. Maybe you'll learn something new. Maybe you'll go out and start a new collection. Who knows?
Yep.
But you, Steve. I'm Dave. And
fist bump. Oh, other way.
we thank you for watching, and remember, building collections, that's great. Building relationships, that's what this hobby should be about. Good night, everyone.
Amen to that. Thanks, guys.